Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Mahlangu, you're under your previous oath to tell the truth. Counsel.
Maybe before we go there, Justice. You asked me a question earlier, and I'd like to come back to that question if it's possible.
Yes, it is possible, and you may.
You asked me that people marched and people came to the department to present memorandums, and I'd like to speak to that with your permission.
Yes.
Because I thought you asked a very important question which deserves a decent answer. Firstly, I think on the 16th of February 2016, I received a memorandum, and I think its contents, this is Ella, excuse my, I need to refer to the file for everyone to follow, Ella 132, and that is page 115.
Yes.
Yes, then the memorandum was presented, and I received the memorandum on the 16th of February. And as it will be procedural, will follow in government, then I asked the HOD that we must respond to the issues raised by the people who had marched to come to the office. And on page 116, Justice, is the comprehensive response, which looks at talks about the purpose of what this memorandum is here, the background of that, and then it goes to the discussions relating to the matter concerned. But the section I'd like to read for the record. For instance, and the memorandum is comprehensive, and I'm trying to save time and just getting to specifics. And was the question you asked, I thought that were important and deserve to be given a comprehensive answer. And I'd like to read the paragraph 2 on page 118. It said that the department had developed project plan led by the project manager, whose task is to ensure the involvement and participation of project team, the family and other stakeholders, and also to ensure that the progress is being evaluated and monitored on a weekly basis. And I think that is important to note. And of course, there are other details, important issues by families. They are also related there. And just further to say, and the HOD would have signed this letter on the 11th of March 2016 after receiving it. I referred to him after the 16th. Just further that, there was a second memorandum that was sent to the department, and there's a comprehensive response to that, which is on page 120 of the bundle of documents we're looking into. And the purpose, and I'd like to read that for the record, to submit the responses on the memorandum handed over to the department by the family members of the mental health care users admitted in Life Esidimeni facilities on the 9th of June 2016. And of importance, Justice, I would like to take you to page 122. All the aspects are important, but I'm trying to save time. Page 121. Upon issuing the notice to Life Esidimeni on ending the contract relationship, the family meetings were held. The first meetings were chaired and directed by the MEC for Health and Leadership, and later by the project leaders. The intentions plans, the implementation and evaluation plans were presented in these meetings. Further, that in the last paragraph before the title in the memorandum, below are the responses to the memorandum raised by the participants who had brought the memorandum to the department. First of all, there are concerns, and there's a blow-by-blow for every concern raised. I'd like to read the response to some of the concerns, and I'm not going to go to every one of them. First of all, on moving patients without alerting families, the response at the time of the department said the department has engaged the family of the Life Esidimeni mental health care users at all facilities. Firstly, as a mandate to Life Esidimeni managers as one of their indicator on monthly basis, and then planned formal departmental meeting as follows: Waverley, on the 29th of June 2016, Randfontein Complex, on the 30th of January, and Baneng on the 13th of February 2016. The meeting resolved to have a committee, which I would have reflected on when I was presenting early in previous engagement. Have committees that will work with the department. Thereafter, the committees from the first to the facilities establish one committee. Right? Then we go to their loved ones have been at Life Esidimeni for a long time. And again, there is a comprehensive response, and I'd like to read this on record. This is a contravention. Now, the department took care of mental health care users through the contract relationship with Life Esidimeni for over 36 years. This is in contravention with the Mental Health Care Act and the South African policy framework, and also with the Auditor General prescripts on procurement processes. The department paid all users in Life Esidimeni. The department noted that the services are no longer affordable and opted to negotiate to a better manageable resources at an affordable cost. And the next topic is the department repeatedly lied to the families. That's a topic.
Just allow me to interrupt you. We're not seeing the document for the first time. It's in the ELA documents.
Yes.
And we canvassed it with Dr. Manamela and Dr. Silebano. Very nice answers.
Yes, I'm getting to that, Justice. Please indulge me for just a minute.
So we have this on record already.
Yes.
We have gone through it before.
But I thought it's important to put it on record in my own words. Can I just go to this point? That the team, for instance, that this is my last point, and I'll make a sentence conclusion that paragraph 13.1 on page 12 of the same file.
Yes.
Says 2 medical officers appointed at the review board and who worked at LE facilities. That time on part-time were delegated to assess the patients to the 2 Life Esidimeni facilities. All patients were assessed before discharge to the hospital and NGOs, and also when received in the hospitals and later into the NGOs by the delegated medical officers from the review board and the districts. My conclusion, therefore, Justice, is this. This evidence, this information is presented to me in a couple of meetings. The memorandums are responded to by competent official. And
we have to listen to the witness already. That is just so obvious. Please.
It's presented to me by medically qualified officials. And of course, now I know that the information was not correct. I was misled. And that's a point I want to make, Justice, and put it on record. And there's evidence. Yes, you said we have it, but I thought I need to bring it on record that indeed, all along, whatever information I'm being given, this is what it suggests. And I had no reason to believe anything else other than what the officials I was assigned to work with were giving me.
Yes, and it was compiled by Dr. Manamela, who probably got staff to compile it. And now we know you don't believe what they told you. I don't believe what they said because so many people died there after trauma. Despite every line, they say it's all fine. Everybody's happy. The families are happy. Patients are happy. We're doing the right thing, but we are agreed, and thanks, I'm happy that you are agreed with us that this is reporting on paper, which is blatantly false. But understand this is what you were given, MEC. That's the point you're making.
Yes, yes, absolutely,
yes.
Justice.
Okay, thank you. Counsel?
Thank you, Justice. I trust I can have 20 minutes longer now to cross-examine.
Do what you have to do, counsel. There's only one thing. I thought about it again over lunchtime, and that is to all counsel. I've read the arbitration agreement again. Unlawfulness of the conduct of state officials is not in dispute, it's admitted. The negligence and recklessness of the conduct of state officials is admitted. And the causation of death and the fact that the deaths were not caused naturally is admitted. So all those elements of delict have been admitted in the arbitration agreement. Let's just always keep that in mind in our cross-examinations. And that always goes to relevance. So I'm going to be quite tight to try and get us there. We must finish the evidence tomorrow and be left with a few political principles so we can bring this thing to an end. And I'm quite determined to that. All those issues have been admitted, and we know what's in dispute, basically, is the content of equitable redress. We've got to keep that constantly in mind as we carry on. And I wish I'd said it much, much earlier to everybody else. But that is the situation. We have to go to what matters most, equitable redress. Counsel?
Justice, could I just have a moment?
And closure is still in this, I mean, the parties specifically recorded that these proceedings and the evidence and the facts and opinions ought to help them to find closure. So that is one big component of this arbitration, which makes it an arbitration sui generis, and yet it's still an arbitration.
Yes.
Very well.
Thank you, Justice. I am working on closure because the truth facts are necessary for closure, if I may.
Yes.
Ms. Mahlangu, I see from the letter that you wrote to the Umbud that you went to Dubai. Is that right? Just before the report came out?
Before the report came out, I had gone to Dubai during December, in January 2015.
Can I take you to the report, LR 131A?
What?
Yes, this is your letter to...
It's 13 what?
131 and A. I'm not making anything of that. I just want to ask you a question on it. Do you see it? Paragraph 2.2?
Wait a bit. So, oh, sorry. Ella, 1-2?
131 small a. Paragraph 2.2. Do you see it?
One through 1A?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Page 2, paragraph 2.2.
Yeah?
Do you see that? It says
Yes.
you returned on the 10th of January 2017 from Dubai. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Were you there on holiday?
But what is the relevance of the question?
You don't want to answer it. No, it's fine. I just want to know, were you there for long?
But what is the relevance of the question?
The relevance is you, the MEC for health, people are dying, and you're going on holiday. That's what I want to know. So it is relevant in my submission.
Through you, Justice, I do not see the relevance of the question, honestly. Here. In South Africa, there is holidays every December, and I don't think it's appropriate to... And I took my duties very seriously, so I don't think it's appropriate.
I'm not sure where that's going to take us to, Counsel. You've got to persuade me, too, that it's going to take us somewhere.
Well, we know that...
In the arbitration.
Yes, just as we know this witness was in hospital, and she didn't do her duties then. We know she's been campaigning, and she hasn't been doing her duties. Now we see, all in all, there's a holiday as well. And I just want to know, did she take her duties seriously?
Yeah.
My last day at work, Justice.
I think it's frankly, Counsel, it's minutiae. I don't want to know where the witness holidayed. And
well, it's unfortunate that it was Dubai.
yes.
Yeah.
I know Dubai is sensational.
Yes, absolutely.
This is not a state capture inquiry. We really don't have to. We don't really have to go there at all, Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. Do you know Miss Nancy Shliwai, the Honourable MEC for Social Development in the Eastern Cape?
MEC who?
Nancy Shliwai.
I don't know a surname like that.
Do you know who the
Do you
MEC
mind to
of
spell?
social development
Do you mind to spell the surname?
Do you know who this MEC for social development in the Eastern Cape is?
No, I don't.
You see, what I find strange is that in the Eastern Cape, at the same time, Life Esidimeni's frail care centres were in the same arbitrary and unreasonable manner targeted. And I just want to know, do you have any explanation why these two processes were running in tandem?
Well, I don't have jurisdiction over other provinces. I'm not a national minister, and I was at the time the MEC for Health in Gauteng. I do not have an answer to it.
You don't know of any behind-the-scenes interference?
In the Eastern Cape?
Both Gauteng and Eastern Cape.
I don't know what
Was
kind of
your
influence.
decision a result of some external interference in your decision making?
I don't understand what type of interference.
External to yourself or to the department? Were there any interested parties who influenced you in your decision? The answer may be no or yes, but that's what the question
The answer is definitely no. But also just to say what I've explained, consistent with my Monday explanation, that is the process, that how things work in Gauteng. Any other thing, I wouldn't know anything about it.
You see, Dr. Morgan Makwach has testified here that his reason why he thought the Life Esidimeni contracts were cancelled was because the Life Esidimeni is a subdivision of a listed company that does not have the appropriate BEE credentials. Did that play any role in your decision?
Not at all, and I don't know where that comes from, actually.
Okay. You didn't say to Andrew Peterson at one of the meetings, calling him aside, saying to him, "You're helping white. You must stay away from white people."
My conversation, through you, Justice, my conversation with Peter, to be exact, I remember he came to a meeting with Section 27, with SASOP, and Peter was representing the family members. And I said to him...
I'm sorry, are you talking about the same person? You talk about Mr. Peterson,
Andrew Peterson.
the pastor.
Yes.
Yes.
Are
And
you talking about the same
yes,
person?
I think so.
It is the same person.
I think it's the same person. And the conversation I had with him was about the church, and I discovered that he goes to Methodist Church. And then I said we're going to the same church. And I even said to him, why don't you come to me, as I had suggested, that we must form a committee meeting so that we can have a conversation together with the families and have a meeting. And I again gave him my number. And subsequently, we were having a conversation with Peter. I can't remember SMS or what, even my officials trying for us to set up a meeting with the family committee. That is a conversation I remember having with Peter.
The allegation is that you told him, stay away from white people. I think you must deal with that.
But Justice, Sarah, there's a lot of hearsays. And South Africa is a multiracial country. And I believe that every South African belongs to this country belongs to all of us, black and white.
But
and
from an MEC, if you just said, did you talk about white people?
No, I didn't, Justice.
No, you didn't.
I asked him a question, why don't you arrange a meeting to meet with me because you have my number? And we talk about church issues related to Methodist.
Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. So he's lying if he said you
Well, I
you
don't
said
know. That's what I remember, my recollection.
So you could have
between me
said
and him.
that.
Pardon?
You say you don't remember saying that. Is it possible that you could have said that?
No, but Counsel, I'm saying my conversation with Peter was what I'm explaining to you.
But I'm just trying to establish whether he's lying or not.
Well, that's up to you, Counsel, to decide, honestly.
If I go to Annexure A to your first papers, on the third page about...
Did you make it clear that Mr. Peterson was here testifying
Yes, I did.
in the witness box under oath and made the allegation? In other words, it wasn't an extra cathedral kind of statement. It was made here
Under
in this
oath.
hearing under oath.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. I see that in your Annexure A that you attach on...
Which are the EL 132?
No, it's a statement that you handed in with annexures on the first day.
Okay.
I see on page 5 thereof the heading. Can you read that for us? Do you see the heading?
No, I'm still with my document. I messed up with it.
Is that the statement of Ms. Mahlangu?
Judges, on page 5, it's just a heading page.
Is it the statement I tabled here?
It's Annexure A to your first affidavit. It looks something like
The
this.
budget presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
You have that?
Yes, I do.
Can you read that heading?
The one that starts with what? Radical economic
Yes.
transformation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you see radical economic transformation?
Yeah.
Is that the heading that you chose?
No, but this is government policy.
I'm asking, is that heading that you chose, Ms. Mahlangu?
Through you, Justice, this, the templates are given when department are asked to go and present. So I don't choose government policy, we decide. And this is the radical economic transformation is a Gauteng government policy that is being, we took a decision in 2014. It has gonna run till 2019. So it's a government policy.
In 2017, in July, 20th of July to be precisely, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa had the following to say about this radical economic transformation. If you can just listen and say whether you agree. He said that radical economic transformation and white monopoly capital are a new narrative which PR firms use as capture language for state capture. That's what he says. Do you agree with that?
Well, I don't know why the Deputy President, why he made that statement. This is a Gauteng government policy decision on radical economic transformation, and every department pursues and follow what Gauteng government has
So he says those two terms are used by PR firms for state capture.
Through you, Justice, I think I wouldn't be able to interpret what the Deputy President would have meant.
Okay, and he continues, and I just want, this is the last what I'm going to say.
What is the source of the statement?
It is his speech to the Gordon Business Institute, Justice.
And
It's
the
well
date?
published. It's on the 20th of July, 2017.
Yes.
He said that what radical economic transformation rather means is that our country's resources must be used to the interest of our people, particularly the poor, and it means management by capable, honest, and accountable people. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Now, my argument is going to be that in the conduct of taking this decision, you were not capable because you didn't make an informed decision.
Well, that's a subject for your conclusion, Justice. I would not be able to make a decision on that.
And I will also argue that you weren't honest in what you knew and what you didn't know. And my learned friend has taken you to task for the previous 2 days on that.
Well, that's up to you to decide. I came here honestly and truthfully. I've been taking an oath every day since I was sitting here, so help me God. And I think I've done my best in telling things to the extent that I remember,
Yes.
and to the best of my ability.
And I'm also going to argue at the end of the day that you haven't shown accountability.
Well, if I had not shown accountability through Justice, I'll still be employed. And I'll still be whatever. And I'm a student, consciously so, because I decided to fall on my sword. And I think that I've taken political accountability.
Yeah.
And I'm here to support the arbitration process, to answer and give information to the extent that I can contribute towards finalization of the report.
Ma'am, if you go to that annexure before you, page 100 thereof, reading maximization of own revenue.
The 100 of the
Yes, of
the
that
original-
annexure A. Yes.
of the original number or of the
No, 100 at the bottom of the page.
100 of Annexure A.
I'm saying there's 200, there's hundreds in the number of slides, and there's 100 in the page, whatever.
The heading is maximization
Oh, yeah,
of own
okay, sure,
revenue.
sure,
Do you
sure.
see that?
Yes, I do.
You refer there to McKinsey and work that you want them to do. What is that?
The document says the model of cash lab with McKinsey at their risk is being investigated. And the overall objective is to release the cash to be used for other priority initiative, enhancing cash monitoring and planning capability. So it says to be investigated, and as to whether it was done or not, that can be.
What did you mean by that?
McKinsey has been involved in assisting because they're one of the consulting companies in the world that has specializes in healthcare particularly and many other things. And one of the things they do very well is to assist organizations, and I know that they've assisted Russia, they've assisted different companies with stabilizing their healthcare system in terms of finances. So as to what exactly the details of this, the Department of Health can be in a position to deal with it. But I don't see any relevance of that actually to this.
Did you have any contact with them whatsoever?
I know the McKinsey colleagues very well.
I see. Can I just take you to your budget speech of LR 134?
Yeah, sure.
Have you got it?
Yes, I do.
2014, 2015?
Yes. And the page?
I see that the pages are not numbered, but if you go to the third page from the start, it's got a heading in the first quarter of the page, stabilizing equipment.
Priority 3.
Yeah, you see that?
Yes.
The last paragraph on that page, what is that about?
Oh, this is very simple.
Can you first read, sorry, can you please read the paragraph into the record?
As part of McKinsey Equity Equivalent Program, they have committed to working with us to improving the management and operational system in our facilities for the department to deliver a better quality of service to our people. What it means, Justice, if you go to Charlotte, just across the road, if there was time, I would definitely walk with someone to here because the program is still visible. What McKinsey, because I don't think they have the BE kind of status, they're a multinational, they're a international consulting company. They have funds that they set aside to assist causes that they decide to fund. For instance, health was one of those. So we went to them to make a presentation. I think they gave us about 10 million or so. I'm speaking under correction, boss, I don't have that information. They gave us the resources. What did we do? They supported Charlotte. We were looking at improving efficiencies in theater because there was no proper records in theater before when I arrived in 2014, to look at theater, to have proper records and make sure that patients, operations are not cancelled arbitrarily because there's no system. Secondly, they help to improve the efficiencies using lean principles at the pharmacy at Charlotte. And also they help with painting and all of that with the hospital. They also trained the pharmacy head and different other managers in order to use, to improve system within the facility. So if you go to Charlotte, I'm sure the CEO and other people can explain to you the greatest of detail. So that's what McKinsey did.
Do you pay McKinsey for their services?
McKinsey gave us their money that was meant for CSI, I think. Yeah, that's what it's called, but they call it the Equity Equivalent Program.
Can I just ask that you pay them for any services?
Well, for this service, they were not paid for anything.
Did you pay them for any services, Ms. Mahlangu?
At this
In
moment,
other words, for any other services?
Sure. I don't know. McKinsey, sure, I just have to get information.
Yeah. Were they contracted to the department in their consulting business?
They are contracted by many government departments.
No, Department of Health. Do they have a contract with the Department of Health?
I have to get the details, Justice.
Yeah.
This program I know about is this specific program that had to do with CSI. The actual program, and I know they facilitated one of our strat plan, and I don't know whether it was pro bono or what. And I think, yeah, that's what I remember. The rest, I think the details can be found into that. But Justice, through you, I do not understand the relevance of this question to what is at hand.
It's in the presentation, and Council is seeking clarification about the role and presence of McKinsey. I think it's a fair question. It's part of the presentation you thought we should look at, and you placed it before us.
And I thought I would, if I was allowed to explain the presentation in the details that I would have thought it would have helped to clarify a lot of issues, which probably I think they are grey area at the moment.
Council?
Thank you, Justice. I'm moving on. Can I please take you to LR 84?
Okay. No, I've got.
Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I
We've
do.
referred to it before. It is the Minister of Health's address in Parliament. You have that?
Yes, I do.
Line 13.
30, yeah?
No, 13.
Oh, sorry.
Says he regards this as one of the, it constitutes one of the periods of darkness in our history of our country. And I dare say it was also a moment of madness in the Provincial Health Department. Do you have that?
I don't see the exact
First page, ma'am.
First page, yeah?
Line 13.
And this is LR 84,
Yeah.
Council.
That's LR 84.
11, 12,
Yeah.
13, 14.
Do you see that?
What does the paragraph start with?
Ma'am, do you
Needless
see
to say-
the numbering on the left-hand side?
There's 5, 10, 15.
Yes. Now, between 10 and 15, if you
Oh, yeah,
just
okay,
count,
the
you'll
cons-
get
yeah.
to line 13.
Yeah, I can see that now.
Okay. Now, do you agree with him that it's a period of darkness in our country?
I said in my speech, in my, sorry, not my
Just
speech.
yes or no, ma'am. That would be sufficient.
Yes, I agree about
Thank
the period
you.
of darkness and that,
And do you agree that it was a moment of madness?
well,
in
the
your-
minister, the choice of words is a minister's choice, so I won't be able to interpret it.
No, but you've interpreted the previous one. So do you agree with him? It was a moment of madness.
I accept that the period was regrettable and most unfortunate, and I think you must refer to what I had said. And I think it's incorrect to want me to interpret and to try and say what other people have said, because people choose words for certain things, and the language I use and someone else used to describe the same thing is different.
Well, I'm going to argue at the end of the day that this was indeed irrational, unreasonable, and a moment of madness. Would you want to say anything to that
I
argument?
said, just Council, things went horribly wrong, and I stand by that.
Can you please go to line 18?
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Can you read line 18?
That the idea behind the Gauteng Mental Health Marathon project, as it came to be known, was to save money, adds another dimension to our this disappointment and pain.
Yes. He says it wasn't about money.
Well, I don't know why would the minister make this statement, because the budget of provinces are determined by provincial treasuries, and the pressures that provinces are faced with on a daily basis, those are discussed at the provincial level.
Yes.
And from time to time, National will have conditional grants for specific programs. The Department of Health, without any shadow of doubt, I can take you to slide.
Ma'am,
That looks at accruals.
let us just concentrate to finish today. So what you're saying is wrong. You had budgetary constraints.
Yes, we had budget
Thank you.
constraints.
And that's why you said earlier yesterday in your evidence, you robbed Peter to pay Paul. Is
Yes,
that
I was
what-
using that as a phrase that sometimes you take this money from this program, you use it in this and vice versa, and that happens throughout the year.
Yes. And I'm going to argue that this, robbing Peter to pay Paul, shows your attitude in prejudicing the most vulnerable in our society.
That's inaccurate, Council. I disagree with you.
And you knew they were disenfranchised. Wasn't that so when you made the decision?
At all material times, the justice, let me come back to this. The reason why I read the responses signed and written and signed by the HOD and Dr. Manamela to the families, at the time I was made to believe everything is well. And I had no reason to believe anything otherwise. So, and it will be incorrect to continue to attribute the fact that I knew this, I knew that, when I did not know. At all material times, when I'm giving information, and I've given evidence in this arbitration to demonstrate the fact that I've always been told this is this and this is the truth. And beyond that, I really cannot say anything else.
Let me explain where we are. We're at the stage where counsel, having cross-examined at length, is putting to you, as lawyers would say, is stating to you what she's going to argue. She's going to argue that you knew, that you were dishonest, that it was not about money, that it is unclear what it was about, that it was irrational, it was unreasonable, and that's what she's doing now. In other words, she's putting to you the conclusions that she will be urging me to make.
Okay.
Ultimately. So listen to those carefully. If you don't agree, you just tell her you don't agree. But that's really what's happening now. So if you listen to those carefully.
Thank you, Justice. And I'm going to argue that you made this decision in the hope that these poor, vulnerable people won't have society caring for them.
That's absolutely incorrect.
And you were wrong in that.
And the facts that I've presented before this arbitration committee suggest that at all material times, I was assured that things were okay.
Except when you took the decision. Can I just please go to LR 127?
Just before you walk away from LR 84, Council, look at line 19. Former MEC, can you see line 19 to line 21? Those are strong words, are they not? The minister says, I wish to put it on record that at no stage did it emerge, directly or indirectly, implicitly or explicitly, that the Department of Health, nationally or in any province, has run out of money to take care of mentally ill patients. That is the view of Dr. Motsoaledi, talking to Parliament and obviously the nation after reviewing whatever facts were available to him. What do you say to that? What is your response?
Justice, I'll continue to say with the facts presented before me, probably we can call the CFO Health, former CEO, CFO, to tell you about the budget constraint that the Department of Health has. Every single year, and I remember it was last year or 2015 or 2016, we'll have meetings with service providers to say to them, sorry, we do not have money, we run out of money, we'll only pay you in the beginning of the financial year.
No, the national minister tells Parliament, tells the nation, that this was not about money. He says at a national level, at your level, the province, there was never a shortage of money to look after mentally ill patients. That is his position.
Justice, and again, I would like to repeat, and if at all possible, I think probably you should give the former CFO of Health an opportunity to explain the issues of the budget constraints, because the budget constraints are real. And the minister, if probably he does not know about it, but I know the CFO of Gauteng would have been engaging with the CEO of CFO of National at any given point in time. We're shorted of money. Can you please help us to squeeze this and that for this program, from that program, across the board?
You see, I thought the minister is saying this money is always finite. Money is always limited.
Yes.
But he says there never was a time where it was so limited that there was no money to look after mentally ill patients. I thought that is what he is saying.
But Justice, the budget that I presented to you early, the slide I presented to you early, which demonstrated the previous financial year, this is how much you budget for, and then you do overspending. How much you budget for, you do overspending. So I really don't know how else to explain, and I'm not in the minister's shoes, and I don't know what propelled him to make such a statement, honestly.
But do you say there was no money to look after mental health patients? Is that your position?
I mean, Justice,
or you had hoped to save money going into the future? You know, those things are different. Mambe, Yangizwa.
But Justice, the issue, and I said, the reason why I brought the documents to the budget to show the history where the budget constraint came from. That you budget for this, and then the expenditure is that. You budget for this, and the expenditure is that. Right?
So, you reject the assessment of Dr. Motsoaledi?
Well, I have no comment on it, at Justice.
Okay, do you agree with it? Certainly you don't, obviously.
I don't have comments on the minister's statement, on that particular point, Justice.
You see why the minister may be correct. You showed us a slide that showed that your department had budgeted nearly 190 million.
For 16, 17 years?
Yes, for NGOs. So it wasn't a question of there being no money, was it?
But
it was a question of, is it enough for your dreams, everything that you might want to do? But was there ever a time when there was no money for mentally ill patients?
But Justice, the budget of the department, it's a very...
Just think again. You might want to answer again at some point. From your own evidence and from the minister's assessment, it appears there was money. And he says, he told all of us there was no shortage of money. Let's test that just finally. If immediately hell broke loose, the patients were taken back to institutions, isn't it?
To government institutions?
Yeah, the patients who were displaced from Life Esidimeni were taken back to an institutionalized environment once the NGOs had been shut down, isn't it so?
I think when I was there, that the NGOs were shut, yes, that's what happened, but post I left, I don't know what has happened.
All of those patients, from the evidence we had, nearly all, let's say, went back to institutions, were taken back, and the government seemingly is paying a rate higher than it paid before they were moved.
Justice, I wouldn't make an opinion on that or comment because I'm no longer in the system.
Again, it appeared that there was money to pay for these displaced patients because they were paid for and are still being paid for on the evidence that's before me.
Okay, Justice, maybe the new MEC can deal with the issues.
Counsel.
Thank you, Justice. If I could just, Ms. Mahlangu, we're not denying that you have got budgetary constraints. What the minister is saying and what I'm trying to put to you is, if you have budgetary constraints, you don't go to the most vulnerable and kill them off. You look at your litigation costs, you look at PricewaterhouseCoopers costs, you look at McKinsey's costs, you're looking at the study program that you've implemented for senior managers overseas. Those are the things you look at. You look at increases, you look at petrol. You don't look at mental health care users and take away their livelihood. What do you say to that?
But Justice, in Annex B, and I think it's also reflected in my chief evidence, the items that would have been looked at from a cost-saving point of view. And I think there are about 14 of them. Let me just find them and then restate them again for record. The Alexander Clinic, which was running at the higher cost above those of other clinics in the province. The Selby Park, and we've explained that over and over again. Life Esidimeni costs associated and related to Telkom, the Vodacom, security services, a long incapacity leave for 12 months and onwards.
You, Mrs. Mahlangu?
May I complete?
We've
council,
all read
please?
that.
But Council, you keep on...
but there's a huge difference between cutting telephone costs and security costs and mental health care users. Do you agree with me?
But what I'm trying to explain that there are a lot of gamut of things that were looked into. And some of them related... Selby was about patients were involved in that.
Can I take
we have to try and have one person talking at a time. It is just vital. Council, you have to ask the question, formulate it, and the witness must be given an opportunity to answer.
Thank you, Justice. Could I please ask you to go to LL113?
But just before you go there, were you done with the list of things that you say you were saving on?
No, I was not done, Justice.
Okay, please finish.
So I was talking about long incapacity leave for 12 months onwards, NHLS laboratory, laundry services, road accident fund, and stationery. So these are the items that we identified, and when you look at these issues in total, all of them would have resulted into an amount of about plus minus 700 million rands.
Now, Council says, even so, listen to the question. The question is, when you go cost cutting, you don't start by targeting the most vulnerable. That is her point. And I think that could have been answered quite crisply. Then you can say, no, I didn't target the vulnerable, or I did. But I know you targeted at least 3 clinics or hospitals. So she's argument is, you go to the biggest, not the smallest. You don't go to...
But it was not a targeting, and also it was not deliberately, as I said, the outcome of the decision is regrettable. Yet, and there was no intention to deliberately go and say, the vulnerable people, we are going to do this and this and that. That was not the intention. And I think that's what I'm trying to put across.
Yes, I understand matter of intention, but she's saying objectively seen, what would be required ordinarily would be to look at what would border on expenses that you could live on. And she's saying the overseas trips, the cars, all of those things, but the patients must be last in the cost cutting. That's her argument. Do you find fault in the argument?
And let me explain, the Lancaster program in particular, people didn't study overseas, they were studying here through video conferencing and all of that. So, and this is about building capacity for managers in the Department of Health to be able to manage better, learning from the NHS. And I don't think there's not anything wrong in capacitating your managers, because it's part and parcel of wanting to improve and deliver the best health care. Secondly, Justice, I continue to say it was not intentional to have the wrong implementation of this program. It was never an intention. How I wish that I had foresight to see what was going to happen, because I would have prevented that.
Yeah, but you won't fault the principle that when the chips are down, when I was young, I always wondered why adults ate all the meat, but just a rope, and the kids get the smallest parts of the meat. I'm talking about an anecdote that happens often in some families. The adults eat all the thigh, the drumstick and the thighs, and the kids get the smallest pieces of food and meat. And I'm just reminding MEC who would know this, because we all both come from the township. The men eat all the meat, and thereafter the children sit there picking the crumbs. It's the same principle. When you want to save on costs in your setting, Council suggests that you don't go to mentally ill patients. You're going to save somewhere else. So the vulnerable you identify is the children as the one who must get the food, and the men must go out there and eat the smallest bits, not the biggest pieces of meat.
Thank you, Justice.
Counsel?
Ms. Mahlangu, will you please go to LR 113?
Yes, I'm there.
It is a speech by the Gauteng MEC for Finance, Barbara Creasy, on the occasion of 2017-2018 budget presentation in the legislature on 7 March 2017. Do you agree with me that that is in the heading?
Yeah, that's what is written in the statement.
Thank you. Will you please go to page 8 thereof? The page number is at the bottom of the page in the middle. Are you at page 8? Ms. Mahlangu, are you at page 8?
Yes, I am. I thought you. I'm
Thank
waiting
you.
for you.
Thank you. The third paragraph from the top. Could you read that first, please?
It has never been a provincial government policy to save costs by cutting back on services to our citizens. In fact, honorable members, every effort has been made to protect the budgets of health, education, and social development. A simple study where additional resources have been allocated over the last 2.5 years will support this argument.
So what she says, it's never been the policy to cut services to citizens.
Well, the framework I've given, my answer, Justice, is as follows, and I hope that we're not going to have a prolonged question and answer here. The framework I've given in Annex A comes from Treasury. And the follow-up on cost containment comes from Treasury. If you look at the following year, which will be 15-16, I don't know where that presentation is, seem not to be in this. The cost containment that we would have presented to you as in this presentation are factored in the budget. So, and I'm not sure exactly what would be in that program, for instance, in 15-16, you'll see the savings reflected in the budget. This is what is the case. So I'd want to leave my comments at there.
Yeah, but Minister of Finance, I think it's a head-on statement that questions the decision you make, or its rationality and its consistency with policy. In the midst of all this trouble, she comes up and says, no, 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 it never was province's policy to save on patients and health and healthcare.
Justice, I believe that truth will set me free. What is being discussed in boardroom and what people say in public statement are two different things. And I will not come here and take an oath and then say to you that this is a budget presentation when in fact that meeting did not take place. And it's absolutely important that principle to be understood.
Was Ms. Creasy at that meeting?
Yes, she was at that meeting. And you can even ask the CFO, you can ask other managers. And what I think for my comfort, I think God probably has helped me through this process. I never, in those meetings, I took senior management in health who were with me in going to those presentations. If needs be, to test my statement. Yes, you can subject them to questioning.
Did she know that you're going to shut down live?
Yes, she knew all of that, including when we're discussing the SABC contract. To be exact, on the 13th of March, we had a meeting with the Premier with the SABC Park Clinic. The assertion that the leadership of the province did not know about what the Department of Health is doing, it's absolutely incorrect. And I want to repeat, what we say and discuss in boardroom and the statements we make in public, it's important to be consistent with that. And again, I want to repeat lastly, the truth will set me free.
Ms. Mahlangu, are you saying that when you make public statements, politicians don't say the truth?
I didn't say that.
Oh.
I just said that the truth will set me free.
No, before you said the truth will set you free, are you saying that when you make a public statement, that it might not be the truth?
I'm referring to a particular instance here, and I say it again, the truth will set me free.
So Council, we shouldn't spend too much time on that, huh? Maybe we understand the context. Maybe we should move on, please.
Thank you, Justice. It's very relevant.
That's a response of the witness that her attitude, and that's fine. It's not a fact that will get us anywhere now, okay?
Ms. Mahlangu, will you please go to LR 127?
I think it's here, eh? This one. And I think it's here. This one.
Do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do.
That is a press statement by yourself dated 1 February 2017. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I said yes, it is.
Yes. Are there any untruths in this statement?
The statement I read, and it was written by me, so I'm not sure what you mean by untruth.
So when you wrote this statement, it was for the public, so you didn't want to have any untruths in there. Do you agree?
Would you take me to the section that suggests that, read the section that suggests that I'm not telling the
Mr.
truth?
Mahlangu, you're running up and ahead. I'm asking you, when you wrote this statement, you probably didn't want to put untruths in, as you suggested earlier in your evidence.
Justice, I'm not sure. Can counsel put the exact point
Yeah.
she's making or reference paragraph so that I can answer?
Yeah. Let's put the question, counsel, please.
Thank you. I want to put it to you, there's numerous inaccurate and untruthful statements in your letter.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Can you please point me that
Yes,
exactly
I
in the
will
statement?
do that. Did you plan to put any untruths in your statement?
Do you mind to put the
Ma'am,
inconsistencies?
please
that you
answer
made?
my question. You said earlier, if you make a public statement, you're not necessarily telling the truth. So I
No.
just want to know, when you made the statement, were you planning to tell the truth in the statement?
But Justice, through you,
Yeah.
I thought I would explain the context
Sure.
of that statement, and I think counsel is taking it too far, and I don't know.
No,
if it-
I think specific untruths should be pointed out to you.
exactly, and
So
that's why I'm
that you
asking.
wait, okay.
Thank you.
Counsel, may I plead with you to point out the untruths?
I will do so, Justice.
You and me understand how cross-examination goes ordinarily. But here we are, and we need to make some progress. Would we put the untruths that you perceive, and the witness can respond to whether they are untruths or not?
Line 3 of the first paragraph says, I've been in public service without blemish for the past 20 years. Is that true?
Yes, it is true.
Was your 20 years without blemish?
I don't know. Maybe you can point to me the blemishes you know.
Yeah. That the SCA not very seriously spoke about your high-handed attitude with the gambling board.
I don't see the relevance of that, Justice, honestly.
Yeah. Well, that is a blemish, isn't that so?
We were there, I thought, counsel, yesterday. Your colleague, Advocate Hasim, wanted to go there. Let's just get the principles again. Where cross-examination is directed at reputation or character, you ordinarily, or let me put it the other way around, ordinarily you wouldn't be entitled to adduce same fact evidence. You wouldn't say you kicked your dog a week ago, therefore this is proof that you kicked your dog today. And ordinarily it's not permissible to do that. You have to lead direct evidence that you kicked the dog today. Now, you can't use something of the past to say it must be so now. You abused your wife 2 years ago, therefore you abused your wife now. So decisions of the court then, if they are used to impugn credit, is something that we all have to be very careful and cautious about. I know courts now have very wide powers in admitting evidence, but if it is used only for that purpose, I would certainly be very reluctant to allow you to do that, counsel.
Thank you, Justice. Justice, yesterday...
Some court found that you were bully and therefore you are bully.
Yeah, there are two principles that I want to raise. The one is that the one that my learned friend raised yesterday, and the court made a ruling. Similar fact, the court is not going to allow this. But this goes further than similar fact. This goes towards character. And character is different than similar fact. Character is if you put evidence of good character before a tribunal, you're entitled, you open yourself up to show that you're not truthful. And this witness has done so many times in this tribunal. So I would submit that insofar as character is concerned, she's opened herself up to this. And therefore, it would be allowed to cross-examine her on it. I have made the point, I don't want to take it much further than I have made, but I would say it's relevant and it should be allowed in law. And it's not similar fact evidence.
I'm very open-minded to the submission. I hear it. One ought to be persuaded that it is not similar fact evidence. And you impugn character only when the party uses character to defend himself or herself.
She has done so in these hearings. That is one of the exceptions to similar fact evidence. Now, and there must be some parity between the attack you raise on character and the defense that was raised on character, isn't it so? There must be a relationship. You can't say, you said 2 days ago you swim well, and say, but in fact, it's not, you're not a good electrician because you're not a good swimmer. So there must be a rational relationship between the set of facts that one was to use. I'm just talking just straight law. So if you persuade me that there is that relationship, then it may be put in. But if you say other people have said you are bad, and therefore you are bad, that is not usual. Ordinarily, it's not sufficient. This witness is over and over. She's the perfect politician, no blame to lay. She's perfectly honest, and the truth will set her free. She won't lie in any place. She's got an open door policy. She's kind. I've went through it earlier today.
And would that finding be within the same parameters? It would be about conduct within public office.
I would submit so as the MEC. And I would submit further that a public office bearer should be held higher accountable than others.
And once we go beyond that hurdle, what would be the relevance of past impugned character in the inquiry here? Let's assume your argument is correct.
We're testing.
How would that help us in
Justice? We're testing
finding closure and in finding appropriate redress?
At the end of this day, this court is going to make a credibility finding. I'm testing the credibility of this witness, and I submit that in testing the credibility, I'm allowed, in terms of her trying to put the good character before court, to show that this is not completely true.
Would you describe the circumstances briefly to allow me to understand
The circumstances
what you're about to embark on?
I'm sort of finished already, embarked. I'm finished with what I wanted to do. I just wanted to say this is just not true. She hasn't been unblemished for 20 years. I can put the facts of the gambling board before the court if the court wants that.
Counsel seeks to put to you that whilst you say that you have had an unblemished term as a political office bearer, there's a finding in the past which suggests differently. Before we get to the details, is there anything you want to say about that?
I do not know, Justice.
I don't know what its relevance is yet, but we are at the initial stage.
But
the hearing that involved your role in relation to the gambling board, there was criticism leveled against your character.
Justice?
I'm listening.
Yes. If I may just be allowed to intervene.
Yes,
this matter was raised yesterday, and a ruling on the issue of relevance has been made that such questions cannot be posed to the witness. And they are yet repeated in these proceedings. I am mindful of what the justice has said about saving time. The core issue, as the justice has said, it's about the issue of redress and closure. It is well on record that the merits have been considered. And this is a matter which is totally outside the issues before these proceedings. And I beg your intervention that this line of questioning should not be repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other counsel who wants to be heard on the same issue? It's a straight legal argument. It's about similar fact evidence and about relevance. Those are the issues. These are not facts. Whether in accordance with the law, I ought to permit this line of cross-examination. Is anybody wants to express amongst counsel on the issue?
Justice, I just want to put on record that I've gone as far as I want to go.
You
If you
are
want me to put the facts of the matter on record, I will
No,
gladly
I'll
do
make-
so.
I'll make
Yeah.
no ruling then. If you are done, we move on. We move straight on. I think I'll persist in the ruling I made yesterday. But if anything, I think we should proceed.
The only thing that I'm putting to you is that this is not completely true, that you've been unblemished.
I'm expected to answer, Justice.
Well, lawyers put it to you. You
You
may say yes or no.
I do not agree with counsel.
If we can go to the third paragraph from the top. Do you see to this end?
Which paragraph? Which
Third
document?
paragraph, still
that
on
my
LR 127, ma'am.
My resignation letter.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Paragraph 3 starts for the record.
Yes, in the middle of that paragraph, to that end. Do you see that?
To that end, I contacted the Minister of Health, yeah?
Says you contacted the Minister of Health requesting him to appoint the health ombud. Is that completely true?
But I have said that in my submission, and
No.
if I would like to point you back to that.
No, you said you started the process. You
But
didn't
I
say
started, I started a process, and I told you that I indicated to you, Justice, that when I asked the ombudsperson what was his response, and thereafter I met with the minister, and he indeed, he said he will support me. And there's even evidence of the SMSs I submitted. That's for the reason to demonstrate all honesty in my part, what is it that I've done, and you can see the trail of conversation between me and the ombuds
Yes.
in that regard.
So you asked the ombud,
Yes, I called
not
him.
the Minister of Health.
I called him, yes, in the
Yes.
morning. I spoke to the ombuds first.
So this is not completely true, because you started the process, not the Minister of Health.
Justice, I thought I'd put those issues to lay them to rest
But
yesterday.
unto slight cross purposes, Ms. Mahlangu,
Pardon?
only who may instruct the ombud to initiate an investigation?
I think that.
What does the law require? Who may do so?
Oh, I can't remember exactly the section. But the,
You see, you may have written to the ombud, but the ombud's formal brief appears in his report. He says I was formal in terms of the provisions of the act required by the minister to investigate.
but
So
my
you may
understand-
be talking of an informal letter to the ombud. The minister says he lawfully initiated the investigation.
but
So there may
after-
be no conflict. You
but
may
if- but
have
if I've-
written, but the minister has the power and did ask formally, and that's what happened.
But I asked the minister to convince the ombudsperson to assist us into the investigation.
That may be so, but you did not instruct the ombud to start the investigation, did you? As distinct from writing to the ombud, what is the procedure for initiating an investigation by the ombud?
I didn't check the procedure, Justice.
And do you have the power to instruct the ombud to do so?
But I thought anybody can ask the ombuds to investigate certain things in the respective institutions, the CEOs of hospital, what things that they're concerned with related to that.
Yeah, but let's spare all of us that. I mean, I think it's the Ombud says quite clearly in his report, the minister gave a formal instruction that other people may have wanted him to do so is another matter.
Mr.
Okay, let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Could I take you to paragraph 4 thereof? You say that the health ombud has not found any culpability on your part. Is that completely true?
Yes, it is true.
He didn't find you culpable at all.
Justice, may I beg your indulgence, may I refer you back to Judge Ngwebe's ruling?
When you wrote this letter, ma'am, Judge Nupe has not given a judgment yet. So I'm not asking you about things afterwards. I'm asking you, on the 1st of February 2017, you've seen the Ombuds report. Did he make culpability findings against you? In other words, did he find that you've done something wrong?
He hasn't.
That's your understanding?
Yes, it is indeed my understanding.
So
Correct,
facts
sir.
doesn't matter to you?
But shouldn't we, isn't it an easy exercise? You look at the Ombuds report and you can see the findings the Ombud made about you, Ms. Mahlangu. Should we be spending any time on this? The Ombud made a series of findings that places culpability on your part.
May I be pointed to the exact page and section
Of the
that?
report?
Yes, of there where the Ombud says, so that we can have a discussion on it.
Yes. I think it's LR1 or 2. What is it?
Can I take you to recommendation 2 on page 58? Is it 2?
Justice, may I please ask a question for clarity?
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't know whether it's procedural, but
Please do ask.
bear with me with this. If I'm getting an impression, and I was trying to suppress my suspicion, but I'm getting an impression that I'm here in the arbitration to present, and this is about my character more than anything else. Because I'm not understanding what is going on. If this is about my character, I'll like to recommend to you that I'll be allowed to have a lawyer and consult properly, because I'm becoming uncomfortable that I'm being asked questions that are getting into my character, and previous activities are brought into the equation relating to my previous character. I'm not sure what is going on, Justice. Please assist me with my rudimentary or lack of understanding of law.
But you've had the ruling I've made here in your presence that your character should not be impugned. I think when you get to an arbitration, the law requires of you to answer questions, and that is, and if any question goes to your character unfairly, I thought you were here and you had me set out what the law requires in that regard. In other words,
I can't really read.
the law doesn't allow anybody to just free will in impugning your character, and the circumstances are limited where that may be done.
That she's done wrong.
So when you get to a point where you think there's an unfair attack on your character, let me know. And I am here also to guard that that doesn't happen. But you will be asked questions about what happened. Unfortunately, that always is part of an inquiry, such as the present. And I think the most important part of the inquiry, at least for closure, is how did all these people die? What were the decisions and who were the actors who led to these unfortunate circumstances? But you get to a point where you feel you are being unfairly treated, please, I'm here to make sure that doesn't happen to any witness. But witnesses, unfortunately, are obliged to answer questions. Counsel?
Thank you, Justice. Recommendation 2 says that the MEC
Which
must...
page?
Page page 58, I think.
Which section of the report?
It's the recommendations, page 58, file 1. Thanks.
Then I have document just need to. 5A. In the document I have, it's got under section 5. It's in a background on NGOs.
Page 58. 58.
Okay.
File 1. Chapter 18.
The section with the heading recommendations.
Yeah, I'm going right just this.
So fikile ke yona mami.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have you seen recommendation 2?
The Gauteng Premier.
Yes. Could you read that?
The Premier of Gauteng province must, in the light of the findings herein, consider the suitability of MEC Qedani Mahlangu to continue in her current role as MEC for Health.
Yes. So you've done nothing wrong. You say the Ombud has found no culpability on your side, and yet he says your suitability must be looked at. So are you then completely honest when you say he has not found any culpability on your side?
I'll only need someone with legal understanding of what's the meaning of culpability and what exactly this Ombud is saying, because that's not my understanding at all.
You see, it was the wording that you used in your letter.
It's exactly that's what I meant. So, but I don't understand what's the relationship of what you're trying to say. This recommendation doesn't say anything of that. It just said my suitability. And I did not have to wait for the Premier Council. I chose to go.
Yes. Mr. Mahlangu, the only thing that I'm saying, and we can go through the Ombud, but we're going to report, but it's going to take a lot of time. The Ombud doesn't say you're blameless, the report. Even when he testified here, he didn't say you were blameless.
Okay, please, we can take me to the 11th section.
I'm not, you should have read it before.
I have read the report.
That. I don't need your buy-in to say, yes, he said so. It's before all of us. We know it's there. Can you please turn the page of LR 127, your resignation letter? Are you on page 2?
Yes.
You say, I wish to express my gratitude to the health professionals and managers in the department whom I've been privileged to work with. Did you really feel that way when you wrote this letter?
The Department of Health has 67,000 employees. I enjoyed, justice through you, very good and cordial relationship with many, many professionals,
Yes.
professors, and many of them have become my personal friends.
And you regard it as a privilege to work with them?
Yes, of course.
And their professional advice at all material times you respected and accepted?
Yes, of course.
So nobody lied to you whatsoever in that department?
But Justice, the Department of Health through you has 67,000 employees. And it cannot mean that in the statement, I'm not saying all I do. If I say it, I use the word all. probably the council point will be correct.
Yeah, I understand the point. In all fairness, somebody who headed 67,000 people is going away, will make some statement to say bye-bye, goodbye, and thank you for everything. Even so, I think it might be taken in that context. The position evidence of the former MEC is the senior people lied to her.
Yes.
But she was still entitled to say goodbye to the rest.
Yes. But she could have, if it's the whole truth, she could have excluded some.
Council.
Can I just ask you, Ms. Mahlangu, you have at no stage made any disciplinary hearings against any of the people that lied so terribly to you?
Can you please repeat the question, Councillor?
Yes, sure. You at no stage initiated disciplinary hearing against the people that has lied so terribly to you?
Through you, Justice, I don't know how the disciplinary hearings would have proceeded when there was an investigation running, because we needed to wait for the investigation to be completed and then start the procedures.
But why? You know these people had lied to you. You found them out. And
But
you merrily work with them and another 50 people die.
But we needed to allow the ombuds to finish his report, to even consult with the same individual, to provide as much information as useful to the ombudsperson. And I think that's a fair point.
You see, in response to what the Ombud said in his initial report to you, you said you don't like the recommendation that Dr. Silibane and Dr. Malamela be immediately placed on precautionary suspension because that violates their rights.
In terms of the public service regulations, Council.
Yes, so you don't mind. They can continue. They can continue to lie.
But that is not
You're
the
still
point,
defending
Council.
them.
No, I was raising a principal point.
Yeah. But they were
Justice,
suspended.
because in the public service, you just don't suspend someone on the basis of hearsay or something. There must be a formal document that says, yes, we find you guilty on this and that. After the report was submitted to the Premier, there was a process of formulating charges. I may not be describing the processes properly, but from what I understand, that once a report is complete, the process of formulating charges is done, and only thereafter you serve someone with the charge sheet and say, we are suspending you on the basis of the following. And that's how I understand the system to working. Again, I may not be 100% accurate on this thing. Probably the state attorney may assist because they may know the system better than I do. So that's the point. I was at the principal point. I was not defending anybody.
So I thought that you would understand the difference between making a decision and the implementation thereof, seeing that you're the MEC. He was making a recommendation, you guys had to implement it. You didn't understand it that way. But let us move on.
But Council, maybe to say through Justice, I said yesterday, my decision to resign was taken much earlier than the time it was executed. It was disrupted by the passing on of my elder brother. So the important thing to say here that when the report was finally published, the action of the report and its finding, I knew that I would not be in the picture at the time. So the proceedings of taking the process forward and all of those things were going to be taken over by somebody else. And I thought that principle, I think it must be respected. And again, it's in line with the Public Service Regulation Act.
I'm not sure which question you're now answering, but let me move on.
The witness says she knew that she was not going to stay the course in anticipation of the report, and therefore somebody else, her successor, would have to do the charging if any had to happen.
Exactly.
Yes, my question was why defend people that lie to you and say they can't be placed in cautionary suspension? That was merely my question, and it wasn't about anything else.
It wasn't about charging anybody after the report had been out.
No.
Well, if you want to proceed, counsel, you can put it to witness.
I'm watchful of the time, Justice,
Yes.
and I'm trying to move on. I have to put it to you that the impression that I've gained during the evidence and reading through all the documents is that you're more worried about your political career than about the patients. What would your comment on that be?
May you please just guide me as to what gives you that impression so that I can answer
Yes,
you
I'm
properly?
of course going to guide you to that. I'm just asking you, was that a true reflection of what you thought at the time?
No, may you just guide me as to how do you come to that
refuse
conclusion
to
so that
answer
I
the
can
question
answer
yet
you?
again. I will guide you. You, on the 29th of January 2016, you were at Waverley. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yes.
And the families were there. And they had lots to say. Do you agree?
Yes.
It was emotionally charged time. Do you agree?
The meeting, yes, the families raised concern.
And you said to the families, and I quote from the record of Nompilu Nkosi, it's day 30 at page 56. You said you had no
Excuse me,
mental ill.
sorry. Can I get the...
No, you can't. It's not printed. So I'm just for the rest. I'll read to you what she said.
No, but it's not correct, Justice. I thought we...
I'm sorry, what was the request? What was the question and what was the request?
She wants the transcribed evidence to be placed before her. We don't have that, Justice.
Transcribe evidence of who? Of Nompilu Nkosi.
And we are ethical people, yeah? And if I misquote, I'm quite sure one of my colleagues will correct me.
The transcription is going to be read to you in a moment. But you also had a copy of it, isn't it? But you can't remember it now. I don't expect you to. But, Counsel, what do you want? You want to read out the evidence and require a response from...
Yes.
Well, I think you should read it.
Thank you.
And if you have any difficulties of following, please alert me.
Okay.
You said that there were no mental illness in your bloodline. You said these patients were the family's responsibilities and they should take care of them. What do you say to that?
Justice, I disagree, honestly. Because the meeting we discussed, the family raised concern. And I did say, I think I remember saying that, yes, indeed, I do not have anyone in my family who's with mental health challenges. But the fact that the families must take responsibility, the context is justice, and I think it's important that when we're talking about a 20%, the people going over weekends to go to families and coming back, it's in that context to say, yes, government is taking care of your loved ones. From time to time, you've got to visit them. From time to time, they've got to come and visit you and the family. So the responsibility lies between yourself and government. That would have been what I would have said in that meeting, but anything to the contrary, it cannot be correct, honestly.
Ms. Mpelu also said that when you were asked what measures were in place to make sure that the mental health care users do not lapse, your answer was, well, that's the family's responsibility.
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Yes, sure. Ms. Nompilu Nkosi said that you were asked what measures were in place to make sure that the mental health care users did not relapse. And your answer was that the families must make sure that that does not happen.
No, but that's incorrect. It's incorrect.
They must talk to their...
Yeah, that's somebody's evidence, so you can say, no, I didn't say that. And if you want to explain what you said, you're also free to do so.
No, I did not say that, Justice, but also to say that the relapse are a family's responsibility, that will be inaccurate. Because when someone relapses, they have to be taken to a clinic or the hospital or something like that. So it can't be correct that I would have said that. I do not agree.
You deny that?
Just maybe to say that I had an interaction with Nompilu, and I'm not sure whether it's the same Nompilu, via email, about a march that they were planning to bring to a march to have to the department. In that conversation I had with Nompilu Justice, she said, would like to come and bring a memorandum to the office. And I said to her, why don't we have a meeting and discuss the issues? And she responded by saying, no, we want to march, or I'll come back to you another day. Sometime I'm going to consult. She came back. She says, no, we are going to march. And I said to her, I can't remember the date they were wanting to march to come to the office. And I said to her, Nompilo, on that day, I have a commitment outside of the office, and it was not even in Johannesburg. I will not be in the office. Do you mind that we have a meeting prior, so that whenever if you did want to continue to hand over the memorandum, at least we would have met, I would have gotten a sense of what the issues were. She said, no, we're not going to meet. We are going to proceed with the march. And then I said, because I am not going to be available on that day, I think it was about 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance or something like that. I am not going to be available on that day. I think I said the HOD or Dr. Libete was going to receive the memorandum. This is the memorandum responses I have read to you, Justice, relating to all the issues that I was given assurances in responding to those memorandums. So I thought it's important to bring that angle, because I remembered, Nompilo, that I had an email conversation with her back and forth when she suggested that there was going to be a march. I said to her, a march is important, but I would suggest that we have a meeting and have a conversation.
Yes. Clearly, you don't agree with Nompilo's evidence. Counsel?
Thank you, Justice. Your attitude also comes through fairly clearly in your responses to the questions put to you in the legislature. Can you remember saying, after you thought there was 36 people dead, saying to one of your fellow members in the legislature, he's grandstanding? You said it quite a few times.
No, I do not remember that.
Okay, I'll take you to that.
In what did I say that in the legislature?
Yes.
No, I don't remember. I mean, the official records of the legislature, that when you answer the question, you answer the question. And remember, Justice, through you, probably maybe you'll have an appreciation of this better. Legislature is a political ground. And being a political ground, there's a lot of politicking in the legislature. And at all material times, I tried not to use, because health is a very sensitive portfolio, to use politics to deal with issues and questions raised in the legislature. And I thought it's important to me to bring that context.
So you never used the word grandstanding? Well, I'm going to take you to it now. It's in file 3. If you can get, if somebody can get that for you.
What file is that?
But remember the initial statement that I made to you. I said, I'm trying to show that your political career is more important than the mental health patients.
Thank you.
Okay, file, yeah, I've got file 3.
File 3, page 1079. 1079. That is a transcription of 13 September 2016. And that is the day that you told the legislature wrongly that 36 people had died.
Wow.
My learned friend had also taken you to that
So
passage.
yes, I'm on 1079.
Yes. Now, at that stage, you are, if I can start at the top of the page, you, instead of addressing the problem, you say, but everything wasn't honky-dory at Life Esidimeni. At least we know the people didn't die. And then you said, and the patients walked out with one set of clothes. So you're not addressing the problem of the people dying. You're trying to make other people look bad. And then you continue and you say, and my learned friend's taken you to task on that, on the 3rd paragraph, that only one complaint has been received, and she'd shown that that wasn't the truth. If you turn the page.
But in pursuit of what are we now, Council?
We in pursuit of her worrying more about her political career than about the patients dying. If you can go to page 1081, and then the third paragraph there, and I'll read it to you, say, I think again I want to appeal to Member Bloom. Can you please stop grandstanding on patient issues and let us deal with the issues? If there are challenges, let us deal with those issues and stop using people's poverty and challenges and grandstanding them here in the legislature. That wasn't anything close to what a person who was in charge of a project where people had died should say to a fellow member. Don't you agree?
The legislature, through justice, as I said, is a political ground. And the language we use in the legislature and in engaging one another as political party members, the ruling party, the opposition, and all of that, it's the point I was making here is that when we deal with issues relating to patient care, and this point I've emphasized it over and over again in the period where I've served in the executive, particularly in sensitive portfolios like health, that we shouldn't use patients' issues relating to death as a political football, because we're going to end up hyping up emotions and end up with an unnecessary crisis modus of operandi instead of getting the system and people to focus on
that. Council says you shouldn't have said it. He says it's not what you should have said given the deaths that had occurred. What is your response to that?
The response to Justice, remember at the time, and I'm saying to you that I did not know the information that I have at my disposal now. And I think it's important for me to continue to qualify the fact that the legislature, it's a political football. Sometimes issues that are real and sensitive are being taken and used as a political football, and that becomes unfair on the people who are affected.
But you have a statutory duty to fully report to the legislature.
Yes, indeed, I observe that at all times.
I would have thought if I were in your position or anybody else with responsibility and a good leader, they would say, please give me all the information. I'm so thankful that you've brought things to me that I didn't know.
You know, Justice, the reports to the legislature are governed by Public Finance Management Act. There's monetary information you send, and there's a non-monetary information. Non-monetary information relates to performance and programs and all of that. The monetary information will say you spend so much, you didn't spend, you overspend, you did, or whatever. So this is section chapter 7 of the PFMA, and I'd like to read 2 paragraphs.
Yes.
The law says, this is about the executive authorities. Section 63 of the PFMA says the following. Financial responsibilities of the executive authorities. Number 1, A, executive authorities of departments, executive authorities, MECs, of departments must perform their statutory functions within the limits of the funds authorized for the relevant vote. B, in performing their statutory functions, executive authorities must consider the monthly reports submitted to them in terms of section 39.2B and 44C. The second, I'll leave the second paragraph because it applies to certain things. And then section 64 of the PFMA, section 1, subsection 1 says, any directive by the executive authority of a department to an accounting officer, which is the HOD of the department, which has financial implication to the department, must be in writing. It further on goes to say, if the implementation of the directive is likely to result in the unauthorized expenditure, the accounting officer will be responsible for any of those matters related to that. And the last paragraph says, paragraph 3, any decision of the executive authority to proceed with the implementation of the directive and the reasons for the decisions must be in writing, and the accounting officer must promptly file a copy of this document with the National Treasury and with the Auditor General if a provincial is involved. The point I'm going to, Justice, that if I'm given information as I've read immediately after lunch, There's a memorandum from families, there's memorandum from NGOs that says, these are our concerns. And based on those concerns, a response is written by competent civil servants. This legislation refers to them as accounting officer and respective responsibilities. I'm given assurance that these issues are being dealt with. Another memorandum comes after my conversation with Nompilo. It comes in, a response is given. So that report does not belong to the legislator necessarily. It's in the department. We will report about that activity when we report in the financially of all the activities that will have been done relating to stakeholder engagement. And if you go to any financial annual report of the department, you'll find those activities. Thank you.
I'm certainly not sure what answer it was, but in relation to which question, but it is clear what you are saying, and thank you. You're saying that you relied on these officials, the theme that runs right through your evidence, and they, including an accounting officer, and you're entitled to rely on the information which was given to you.
Absolutely.
Counsel.
Ma'am, I just wanted to say that that wasn't an answer to my question. But what I am saying is that your handling of the matter in the legislature, talking about grandstanding, saying yes, 36 have died, but most of them don't have families. That sort of attitude is not what one would expect of a political leader under our constitution. What do you want to say to that?
Counsel, and through you, Justice, I have made a point that probably the choice of words in this instance in answering the question were not appropriate, and for that I take part.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The answer.
I'm also worried about your attitude to bring closure to the families. And I want to ask you, when you started giving evidence here, you know, I'll just go back a little bit. You know that the arbitration was delayed to make provision for you to come. Is that so that you know that?
I wasn't aware that the arbitration is delayed because of me.
I'm putting it to you now. The
And
arbitration
I'm saying
was
I wasn't
delayed.
aware, Counsel.
Now, you said that your intention was to come in November. Remember saying that the
Yes,
first
I
day?
do remember saying that.
And you said your intention was to come in December. Remember saying that?
Yes, I remember saying so.
And then you say they advised me best to come in January, and I obliged. Remember
Yes, I
saying that?
remember saying
Who
so.
are the they that you're referring to?
The lawyers I was consulting with.
So are you saying that you said to the lawyers, I want to come in November or December, and they say, no, rather come in January?
Justice, if I may explain, at the time, I think on the 10th, the conversation we had was on the week before the 10th of November, to be exact. I was due to submit my second assignment, and I was working on that. And I indicated to them that when I submit my assignment on the 10th, I will have 2 weeks break before I start my next module. However, I would have missed my evening classes on the second course. I was referring to the accounting course I took interest and I enrolled in. But I will speak to my lecturers and try and negotiate for that. And then the advice and discussion we had with the lawyers was that, but what if when you come in, then you are not allowed to leave, go back to your studies till the arbitration is completed? It's on those bases that then they approach you, Justice, I'm sure you remember that, after conversation, and shared with you my program of what I was doing up until mid-December, and thereafter, that's why then the January became the most visible time. So again, I apologize if indeed I dragged it.
The co-allegate charge against you that counsel is putting is your attitude is a bad one because you kept everybody waiting. That's the one that you want to briefly respond to. That's what I understand.
It was not
Her
intentional.
question imply that you were less than cooperative and you didn't mind all of us waiting until it was convenient for you.
So it's not
I think
accurate,
that's what she's
Justice.
implying,
It's
yeah?
not accurate, Justice. And I thought we've spoken about those issues on Monday.
Sure.
That with my academic commitments and the fact that after considering all, aspects, then when they approach you, Justice, and then the conclusion was made that I'll
Well,
come
you
into
don't agree that you did it out of disrespect
No,
or
absolutely
out of
not.
being uncooperative?
No, absolutely not.
There's the answer, Council.
Thank you, Justice.
Excuse me, Justice. And I was answering in this manner because I thought on Monday we had dealt with that aspect of why I didn't come early.
Lawyers go back to things, ma.
But
It's-
that's why I'm
that's what
confused.
cross-examination is about. I mean, lawyers go back to things and find out and probe, and so it happens that way here. Counsel, you've got an answer.
Thank you, Justice.
I was not uncooperative and I was not disrespectful.
Just as a matter of interest, Ms. Mahlangu, what happened to your suspension in the UK?
I'm still suspended till my appearance at the arbitration.
Thank you. Now, in fairness to you, I must just put it to you,
I'm sorry, which suspension?
just as the witness was suspended from her college,
Oh, you mean the
she studied,
university
or the university where
suspension?
she was studied. Yes.
At the university?
Yes. Sorry
Oh.
for not putting that clearly.
Okay.
Ms. Mahlangu, I was just, as a matter of fairness, put it to you, and I haven't dealt with it at all in my cross-examination because my learned friend for Section 27 has dealt with, and I believe my learned friend for the other families will also deal with it. But I'm going to argue, having looked at your evidence and looked at all of the documents, that you were actively involved in this process of the termination, the marathon project.
So,
Just
Counsel,
yes or no. You can just agree with me or disagree with me.
actively involved. Let me clarify, and I think I'll answer you. Actively involved mean I don't know what you mean by that, because when there are meetings to give report back as to the progress, I'm not sure whether that's active involvement or not, and that's has been my part, and nothing more and nothing less, to receive reports and to say, yes, are you making progress or not? If so, what are you doing with the challenges? So I'm not sure when you say actively involved, what does that mean?
You went to family meetings in the beginning. You tried to explain what was going on. You were doing implementation.
No, I wasn't. Stakeholder engagement is not implementation. It is not implementation. And earlier on, Council, you were asking me about stakeholder engagement. And I said to you, we could have consulted wider than what was consulted. And going to family meeting, I thought it was an important thing for me to be present, at least in one of the meetings.
Ma'am, I'm also going to argue that you were aware of the problems and you chose to ignore them.
Well, I've given my answers, Justice, and,
Yes.
and the evidence is before
Yes,
the
I think you
arbitration.
have. Let's move on.
And I'm also going to argue that you neglected your statutory duties as MEC for Health.
I have answered, Justice, and with the evidence given me at the time, I had no reason to doubt anything because the people I was working with were medically qualified and very competent people.
Ms. Mahlangu, I still see that you don't understand my point. I haven't gone to the implementation at all. In taking this decision, you have not complied with your statutory duties. That's what I will argue.
I've answered you, Council.
You agree with me?
I've answered, I've given you my answer.
Do you agree with me?
I do not agree with you.
Thank you. And I put it to you that you're directly to blame for the deaths and suffering in this
I
marathon
am not
project.
directly to blame.
Thank you, Justice.
Thank you, Counsel, and thank you for all the thorough research and preparation.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. I should have said that too to Advocate Nguchana on the first day. These things don't come easily. They come out of a lot of work with thousands of pages to look at. There is the end of the cross-examination by Advocate Krauser,
Thank you, Advocate.
who represents, I don't know if you were told at the beginning, the survivors of this project. In other words, those patients who were subjected to the same treatment but survived.
Yes, I read it in in some of the transcript.
Yes, so that was her role, and that is what she was doing here. Now, it's 4:30, Advocate Groenewald. The day is still young.
Indeed, Sir Justice. Subject to what the witness have to say, we are ready to proceed.
I think we better proceed. former MEC, we will be continuing. We're very determined to bring this to an end. So we're going to try and finish all the key evidence by tomorrow and have a few political principles maybe on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we'll be done with this public part of the hearing. So I think we're going to have to proceed. Advocate Groenewald?
Thank you very
Excuse
much.
me, Justice. May I please can I ask for a comfort break?
Oh yes, certainly.
Please.
I think it will suit all of us. I'm going to adjourn for 10 minutes and we start all over again. Thank you.
Oh, can I please get another glass? When I take this. When I take this.
Thank you. Please be seated. You're still under your previous oath, Ms. Mahlangu?
Yes, yes, Justice, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Justice.
Counsel?
I think my colleagues have covered most of the factual grounds, so I do not intend to be too long. There's just a few issues that we need to clarify. Ms. Mahlangu, my name is Dirk Groenewald. I represent a number of families who have lost loved ones due to this Gauteng Marathon project. I'd just like to understand from your side, do you agree with me that your evidence is very important for these proceedings?
Yes, Council, I agree.
Do you know why it's important?
Because I was a political head of the department at the time.
It's important, ma'am, because your evidence can or could have given closure to these families. Do you agree with me?
Yes, yes, I agree.
Now, ma'am, I put it to you that, and it's my instructions, that your evidence up to now has not brought the families any closure whatsoever. Do you want to respond to that?
I'm not sure how to respond to that, Justice, because I had come here and sourced every piece of document I could lay my hands on, and I thought that once the process is completed officially, then there will be a formalization process. Then the family will be given a report. Only then the process of closure is done. So I'm not sure at the moment. So I wouldn't be able to make a judgment honestly about how the families are feeling. But my sincere hope and wish that I'm sharing with the arbitration, to the extent possible, information I remember and that I could have access to. I've tried my best to share that information.
Ma'am, I also put it to you that the reason, two of the reasons why evidence has not brought any closure whatsoever is because we are now in the 3rd month of these proceedings. You were the highest point of authority in respect of this program, and still we do not have answers as to why the contract with Life Esidimeni was terminated.
Through you, Justice Council, I thought I had stipulated those reasons. Probably may not agree with them, and through, Monday, Wednesday, and yesterday, and today, I thought we had gone through all of that, and And as I said, I tried to share information to the extent possible as I remember, and where I could access document and share that with the arbitration.
Yes, ma'am, with all due respect, I think your evidence was pulled apart by my colleagues in respect to why the Life Esidimeni contract was terminated, because you could not provide a rational reason for the termination. All three of your grounds was dismissed by evidence that contradicted your three reasons, and that I put to you.
I do not agree with you, Counsel.
And then the second ground, ma'am, why your evidence does not bring any closure to the families is due to the fact that you live in total denial and that you say that you knew nothing.
Through you, Justice, I thought the documents I sought to read through into the records in order that they must be recorded as part and parcel of this hearing would help to shed light on why I'm saying I was misled. And I thought that was important for me to consistently going back to those documents. And you may not agree with me, Counsel, but I thought I tried my best to share information to the extent possible.
Ma'am, I'm going to give you one last opportunity. Do you persist that you did not know about the risk that this marathon project entailed?
With the evidence I've presented before the arbitration and the information I've shared and in different cross-examination, and that is my answer.
And you want the truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I said
Yes.
so.
So let's go to volume 8, pages 2758, please, ma'am.
Which one is it? Two seven?
2758.
Ungaphungula ezinye nje.
Okay.
You will agree with me that this is minutes of a meeting in respect of the Life Esidimeni termination project, meeting between yourself, managers, and clinicians. It's a meeting that was held on the 26th of January 2016.
Okay. Yes, I see that the minutes were not signed, so.
Well, the documents has been accepted, handed in by the state, and it's been accepted. So I think that there's no dispute that they are true and correct, ma'am.
Justice, through you, as a chairperson of any meeting, minutes are supposed to be approved and all of that. And I'm seeing this meeting, I've seen this meeting minutes. You'll ask, I indicated that to Advocate Ngujane when I met him for the first time.
But you're rushing to the defense quickly. They've not even asked a question, Ms. Mahlangu.
Okay.
You may raise the point. The point may not be relevant. It's a defensive point. Councillor just referred you to the minutes. Just allow him to ask the questions, and maybe later you may, having dealt with them, you say, I contest the veracity of them. But for now, just allow him to ask the questions, please.
Ma'am, you disputed the fact that you pushed this program through. It was put to you that Dr. Selubane testified so, that Mr. Mosenogi testified so, and you said no, it was a collective. You agree with me?
Yes, I still stand by that,
Yes.
that it was a collective.
Can you confirm who chaired this meeting, ma'am?
But this is progress meetings that I referred to, and I did not deny counsel through you. I did not deny any progress meeting when the officials come to give reports to me to the meeting.
Can you confirm who chaired this meeting, ma'am?
The progress meeting that they were reporting to me, yes, I presided over those meetings.
You presided over that meeting. Discussions. Can you read that first sentence, please?
Emphasis was made that the termination is a done deal, no going back with the department's decision to terminate the contract between the Life Esidimeni and a department and Life Esidimeni. Treasury indicated that there is no extra money, that the department to join hands and ensure that all the identified beds for the projects are to be ready by the 1st of March, at least 15th of March 2016.
Yes, ma'am, you said it was a done deal. There's no going back. We're going to push through. Do you deny this?
I don't remember saying that.
The minutes tells us that you said it.
Justice, that's why I was saying, and you said I'm being defensive before I know what is what. For any meetings, minutes have to be signed.
The scribe is signed.
The scribe has signed, but I did not see these minutes till the file was given to me by Advocate Nguchana.
Well, look, let me explain this. Then that becomes an accuracy issue. The minute happened, you chaired it, the scribe records, the scribe signs, so you've got to very sharply say, these minutes are inaccurate, or the scribe is being untruthful.
But I did not see the minutes, and they were never presented in any of the meetings.
No, I understand that. For now, you know how the documents came to the arbitration? They were supplied by the state from the records of the province.
Mm-hmm.
That's how all these documents came here. So these were given to the arbitration as part of the arbitration agreement that the state will provide all records of the department relevant to Life Esidimeni. Let's get back to the page before us, which is page 2758. The long and the short of it is, council says, here are minutes, you chaired, the scribe signed, and it is recorded, as it is recorded, that this is a done deal. So you have to give a response. You've got to say, yes, this was said at the meeting. No, it was not said, the scribe is wrong.
But Justice, Mayor, I really, on the point of, because this is a legal process.
Yes.
And this process is about finding closure and
the truth.
And have the truth.
Yes, absolutely.
And if the truth is going to be on the version of Qedani with a vis-a-vis the other person, and the other person has information that the other one doesn't have. For instance, the issue about the minutes are signed by somebody, signed by the person who chairs the meeting and the person who takes the minutes, right? So, as I'm saying, I do not remember seeing these minutes. And it's important to say, and things are attributed to me in this document that I had said X and Y and Z and Q.
Ma'am, let's recap. My apologies, Justice.
No, not at all. Who was Qedani KJ? Who's that?
I think he was working with Dr. Manamela. No, he was working in the Mental Health Directorate. He reports to Dr. Manamela.
And he was the scribe at the meeting.
And I was not aware that we had a scribe in the meeting either.
Okay, well, then you have to deal with on its face, it is a minute of a meeting. So you have to, as things are put to you, as Advocate Kunava is going to do, you can say what you know to be true and what is not true.
Because when I'm struggling to understand, it says the meeting, the date says the 26th of June, 2016. But there's something that says the department to join hands to ensure that all identified beds for the project are to be ready at least by the 15th of March 2016. So I'm not sure. That's why I'm saying I'm struggling to understand what exactly is going on, and also the accuracy.
Again, it's the 26th January.
Pardon?
It's the 26th January.
Oh, sorry, my apology.
Okay.
Right.
But anyway, let's allow the advocate that you ask the
Okay.
questions. It's a minute that you have not signed, the scribe has signed it, and there are questions about it. Can you just field the questions? Counsel, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Justice. Ma'am, I would in any event argue that you didn't see a lot of documents as your evidence indicated, so there's nothing peculiar about the fact that you didn't see the minutes. But let's proceed. If we go to page 2758, it's the second column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can you read us what's stated there?
What is the title?
There's no title there. There's a presentation by Mr. Mosinogi on the left-hand side.
Okay.
From the presentation, he gives a presentation, and then the second column is the resolutions column.
Yeah.
So that tells us, am I correct to say resolutions is what needs to be done?
Yeah.
All right. So go to the second column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The seventh.
What does the sentence start with?
Yes. Licensing.
Okay.
What does it say, ma'am?
Licensing of both the old and new NGOs must be done by the 5th of February.
Yes. 5th of February. This is the 26th of January, 2016. We had evidence that at that point in time, the NGOs wasn't properly identified yet. Do you dispute that?
I'd like to rely on my documents. It's a justice that I would have sent to this, because I think it's going to be very important that I not talk related to document only.
Yes.
So you may repeat your question, Council?
Ma'am, it's just simple. I'm just asking you to confirm that you had a meeting on the 21st of January 2016, and at that meeting, it was said, resolved, that licensing of both old and new NGOs must be done by 5th February 2016. I'm putting it to you that at that point in time, all the NGOs wasn't even identified.
Well, I wouldn't know. I just need to get my documents and look at what the presentation would have said. It would have helped, Justice, through you, to have seen the presentations that were made in the meeting concerned, so that it can relate to the discussion and the decisions that are reflected here.
Is there something specific that you want to dispute,
Yes,
ma'am?
no, I want to refer you to something, because I'm saying, Justice, that the relevance of, that's why I was raising the issue of signed minutes and all of that, and I'm saying if there was a presentation linked to this, probably I'll be able to remember the discussion and be able to say, yes, this is what I agreed, was agreed, was agreed.
You mean the presentation which was made at that meeting?
Yes.
That you chaired?
Yes, because they were always making slide presentations, and on the basis of that, then there'll be discussion, okay, this and this and this and that, this is a conclusion, this is that. Just
But
bear
the
with me.
minutes are recording the discussion, the resolutions, and the responsible person.
Yes, Justice, indeed. But that discussion is preceded by a presentation. Yes, now there's a presentation. And it's very small though, so I'm not sure how to.
Can you please confirm on which bundle you are, on which page you are referring, and what specifically is the
I
document?
think I'm still on the I'm on LI 132. Page 59.
But what is that?
It's a report in that meeting, and it's very faint. It talks about the Tshwane District NGO information, Tshwane District NGO, all the different regions in the district. So as I'm saying, the slides are very faint and the numbers are small. So maybe we can look at a better vision.
Yeah, but I think you have to allow council to ask questions on the minute that he has in his hand, isn't it? And you've got to give responses to the contents of the minutes. In the end, your attitude might be, forget them, they are unreliable because I haven't signed them. But there are minutes which purport to reflect discussions, resolutions, and who must implement. And the minutes record that you chaired the meeting. So council is trying to ask you about the discussions and the resolutions. I think he's entitled to do that and we should allow him to do that.
Yes, Justice, I agree with you. The point I'm making is that for every meeting that I had with the team, when they were giving me progress report, there was slides presentation made. And for this meeting, there's a slide presentation made by Mr. Nehi about the NGOs. So, and council is saying that at the time the NGOs were not identified. All I want to say is that the slide presentations that I have before me and which was made at that meeting, it just referred to, these are the NGOs identified in the process. So I don't know whether we've got a better version than mine, so mine is not visible.
So your argument is simply that the NGOs were, at that point in time, they were
yes,
identified?
According to this presentation, yes, they were identified, and its respective regions are mentioned here.
You were informed that they were identified, and it was resolved that their licenses must be finalized by the 5th of February.
Yes, they reported that in the meeting.
Yes. I mean, you said at that meeting, as you, well, semi-confirmed now, is that you said we're going to push through, it's a done deal, no going back. And on the 26th of January 2016, you were already informed by your own department, the minutes and the meetings that my colleague referred you to on the 26th of November 2014, the risk that they showed there. There was the SADC letter of June 2015.
What?
The SADC letter of June 20. There was Section 27's letter.
Okay, was it in the meeting or you're referring to the old letters?
Ma'am, I'm just referring to the evidence.
Oh,
you are saying that you didn't know about the risks. I'm saying that on the 26th of January 2016, you said there's no turning back, we're going forward, people. And at that point in time, you already had risks identified by SADC, Section 27. There was already litigation which confirmed the dispute and the fact that there was a risk. And yet you said, we're going to push through.
But Justice, through you, I just have a difficulty to understand where the line of questioning is going. And this is my difficulty.
See, ma'am, it's my line of questioning is for me to know. It's for you to answer questions.
But I need to understand.
If she don't understand the question, then she can ask me to clarify the question. But you can't ask me what's my line of questioning, man. This is not Parliament.
Okay. Is it allowed, Justice?
Yeah, but I think you should answer the question, though. The one thing that I don't think there should be additional remarks about Parliament, Council, but certainly...
My apologies.
There shouldn't be remarks about Parliament here, but certainly when the question is put, please answer it.
Justice, I'm answering the question.
Sometimes, people who ask questions may have 3, 4 reasons why they ask it. But you don't have to know it. What you have to do is to tell the truth the way you know it. That is what's required of a witness.
The truth, as I know it, is a slide presentation of the information that is contained in the file. In this instance, it will be from page 59 to page 63. As I said, my copy is not visible. Can I borrow the other one? That's
Ma'am, just answer my question. I'm putting it to you that on the 26th of January 2016, you said to your department,
Excuse
to the
me, Justice.
department.
Through
Push
you, may I
through.
borrow that copy of the
Push
document?
through.
Well,
And
counsel
at that
won't
point
give-
in time,
that's fine. Sorry, you've been
No, it's from Advocate
stopped a few
Ngutane.
times. I'm sorry, and should not be. But we have to listen to the question. We cannot be pushed to different documents all the time. We have to listen to the question and answer it. That's precisely my point right at the beginning. Counsel has obligations to clients, and he is asking questions. And where paperwork might assist, tell me so, and let's hear how it would. But ordinarily, listen to the question and answer it, please.
Thank you, Justice, for your guidance. And I do like to appeal that I know how to answer the way I've been in the political system. There is no any other way I know how to answer questions. And that way may not be a legal question, a legal way, but may I just please be given the scope to explain, because in the absence of me having the ability to explain using the document or evidence at least before me or before this arbitration, I'm not able to give the answers.
You know, Mr. Mahlangu, this record will be typed, and it will show just how much space you have been given to talk. Massive space. Ordinarily, witnesses are not allowed that much, and I've consciously decided to allow you to do so you can explain your position because of the #1 position you hold in the province in health. But please, let's guard that and respect each other as we move on. Advocate Groenewold's question, he has not even asked why. He's asked one question, and we haven't moved from that one question. Here's a set of minutes. You chaired the meeting. There are recorders. Allow him to ask you questions about the recorders. Please proceed.
thank you, Justice. Ma'am, so my question again is, on the 26th of January 2016, you tell the department that we're going to push through. There's no going back. But at that point in time, there was already numerous risks pointed out to you. Do you deny that?
With the presentation I have before me, Justice,
Do you
through in
deny that, ma'am?
answering the question.
I'm asking you, do you deny that when you gave the instruction, when you said we are pushing through, a number of risks have already been pointed out to you? That is the question. And the answer I would like is either yes or no.
Through you, Justice, counsel is forcing words into my mouth, and I'm answering the question. The
I
question
give you two options, ma'am. A yes or no.
2682. You'll find the presentation. It talks about the NGOs, the license, and no, that needs still to be licensed. Is in this presentation.
What has the presentation got to do with the minutes?
It's got to. It talks about that was presented in the meeting, Justice.
No.
Because he's saying the things were not ready at the time, and I'm trying to say, as at this presentation on that day, there was a clear presentation that was indicating what was happening, what was not in place, and what was going to be done.
No, ma'am. The minutes say you were not ready. And counsel is trying to pursue that line. And you want to look for extraneous documents from other places to show that you were ready. But frankly, for now, he has hardly started. He's asked one question in the last 30 minutes. He wants to know, why would you say there's no going back? In January 26th, at 2016, a meeting you chaired, when you had been alerted to a number of risks already, including litigation in court. That is his point. Can you confront that?
But Justice, I've answered those issues over and over again, and frankly, I no longer know how to say these things differently, because the answers I gave yesterday and I've been giving today, they remain the same.
You see, the minutes suggest that you were there and you were aware that there are issues with NGOs and that there were risks aplenty. That is what counts. If you want to know where he's going, that's where he's going.
But Justice, that's why I'm saying these minutes, I have not seen them before. That was my first point I raised when the counsel started on this questioning on these minutes.
Are
Secondly,
they accurate?
As I said, Justice, I remember this meeting I was present, but in terms of the accuracy of the minutes, I do not remember exactly what was discussed, but I'm saying to say the minutes concern the evidence of what was discussed in the meeting is contained in one of the presentation, which is in the files.
No, but are you saying the summary of the discussion on the minute page, on page 2786, is inaccurate? Is it wrong?
I don't know, Justice.
Okay, the answer is I don't know. Counsel?
Neither yes or no, I don't know. Yeah, ma'am, that is, yeah, it's perhaps a matter for argument, but I think your evidence will be remembered for the I don't knows. But in any event, let's fast forward, ma'am. You give this instruction. In February, your project manager, which Dr. Selubano appointed by letter, but which you handpicked and selected for this program. Do you deny that?
I deny it, and I refer
You
to the
denied that
documents.
that you selected Mr.
I did not
Mosinoghi.
select Mr. Mosinoghi. He was appointed by the HOD again, Justice, on page 7 of the file ELA 132. That is the project management, and it can find it in respective documents.
Oh.
It
The
is here.
witness denies that he appointed Mr. Mosinoghi. Next question, counsel.
Thank you. Justice, I thought I'm just going to have a few questions, but as I indicated to you, ma'am, I agree with you that he was appointed by the HOD, but he was selected, and his testimony was that you approached him and that you
No,
said,
not at all.
is
No,
that,
it's
now
not
let's
true.
go to your bundle of documents, ma'am.
Okay.
And let's go to your bundle of documents and page 270.
Where's that? Which?
Your one.
132.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Which page?
270.
Okay. Yes.
Can you confirm the document, ma'am? What
Yes, I
is
see
it?
there's a document there.
Sorry?
Yes, there's document to page 270.
Yes, ma'am. Can you just confirm what is the document?
It's a document that has been what I think it's what was it? It's a
Ma'am,
minutes. It's a minutes of Mosinoghi.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So let's go there. You have item and discussion, and then you have introduction. Just read the second bullet point there. And as you confirmed, it's minutes by Mr. Mosinoghi. Just read it, please.
Which point
Second
was it?
bullet point.
He was nominated by the MEC to lead the project, but that's not accurate. But that's not accurate. If you go back, Justice, to the document on page, I think the file I submitted, there that's the evidence I'm giving to.
Well, I saw the formal appointment
Yes.
by the HOD of the
Yes.
project team.
So I can't do a double appointment on top of what the HOD would have done.
No, the distinction here is that you nominated him
No, no, Justice.
and the
it's not
HOD
true.
appointed him formally. That's
It's
what
not true,
counsel is putting
Justice.
to you.
Maybe let me explain, Justice, through you.
Oh no, let's put it this way. That's what Mr. Mosinoghi testified on.
No, it's not accurate, Justice.
In fact, Dr. Manamela was quite unhappy. She said she was surprised that you chose Mr. Mosinoghi
No, I didn't
rather than her
appoint.
to be the head of the project team.
I didn't appoint Mr. Mosinoghi, actually.
I'm just repeating their evidence. That's their evidence about
I
you.
understand what you're doing, Justice, but
Yes.
I'm indicating to you, as we've seen, actually the important thing here that the document I was reading to you, this is
I was referring you to the document, and I wanted you to read out one specific point.
But,
You have
I'd li-
read that specific
Yeah,
point, and
and
I
I'd
will
like
now
you to-
ask my following question.
Okay.
Can we please move on? So, your project manager warns you. The HOD also testified that he agreed with the project manager that they should not proceed. Mr. Mosinoghi testifies and he said, well, I did my best to persuade the MEC that we should not proceed, but at least with Baneng I was successful. And I could get a 3-month extension. And he testified that that was you, ma'am, that you made that decision.
Thank you, Justice. Again, as I answered yesterday, the decision was made by the collective. The February meeting concern that is referred to, we've already dealt with the details of that. And thirdly, the project management in the close-out report. In the close-out report of when things were concluded, the report I was reading to you early, on page 7, the project team establishment. It gives account of what would have happened throughout the phases. And I want to submit again page 7, item 3.3 project team, from when it was established, who appointed them and what responsibilities they had, and the different names.
Ma'am, you had nothing to do with this project, had you?
I attended meetings where I was given briefings frequently.
You know that, Mrs. Mahlangu, you know that Dr. Esidimeni actually testified and he said he didn't know, or he didn't extend the contract with Life Esidimeni.
He didn't.
Yeah.
So who extended it?
Well, that's a good question, but as I put it to you, it was you, ma'am. You made that call.
But we sat in a meeting, and in the meeting the discussion was, the point was discussed, and thereafter we went out and issued the media statement, and the HOD went on to inform Life about the decision of the meeting. And that's the procedural thing. I would not get involved in talking to service providers about contractual obligation between the department and the, which would have been entered correctly so by the relevant administrator.
Well, that's the evidence before the tribunal, ma'am. But let's move on. So we have the risks.
And I wish to see the letter through Justice where I had written a letter to Life to say that I'm extending the contract, if at all possible.
Well, can you show us a letter by Dr. Esidimeni that he extended it?
No, but I'm saying, you're saying I took the decision, so I'm asking Justice through you, if possible, may I be given a copy of the letter where it
Counsel is
extended?
telling you what the evidence is. Remember, we've been long here, and it's telling you what Dr. Esidimeni says. So these are not what's happening now, if you want to know. Counsel is simply picking up from the evidence that has been given about you, and there's a lot of it. And he's putting these things to you about what your colleagues said about your role. Just put more shortly and directly, your colleagues don't accept that you knew nothing. All of them gave evidence, and they say it's you who made the decision, and you knew because you came to meetings and chaired the meetings where regular reports were given. And that's where counsel started. Meeting of January 26. But anyway, that's where he's going if you're concerned about that. He's putting to you piece by piece the evidence of your colleagues. And that begs the question, why are they all lying about the MEC?
Justice, I sit here and I continue to wonder why officials are behaving in the manner that they are. Because in the evidence I've shared with you in this file, it suggests that the officials would have made presentation to me, and that presentation suggested that all is well. So I am not sure why someone will prepare a presentation, come to the meeting, when they come before the arbitration, no, we didn't do that. The MEC forced us to do that. And again, I would like to go back to the PFMA.
Who would have appointed this bunch of liars? Every one of them.
Here is evidence that the team was appointed by the HOD.
By the HOD?
Yes.
But you get my point. I'm not being nasty or facetious. Every one of them, from your point of view, has been untruthful. They've not been, and in fact, the project, the tragedy, occurred because of their lies. This whole tragedy.
You know, Justice, again, I'd like to repeat that on page 7 of this closeout report,
yes,
that's why I wanted it to be recorded. I know you've had these documents, as you said before. This may be a duplication or maybe nuanced differently. It's exactly for that reason. Secondly, it's impossible for me to have been on the ground, be with the team every single day. It's highly impossible. And thirdly, the law,
I agree.
the
I
law
agree.
prevents me from doing
But they say
so.
they kept on reporting at
But-
regular meetings.
Justice, the meetings were not on weekly basis. The meeting were probably every 3 weeks or so, sometimes once a month. So I don't know if I'm involved in a project, the way I work, if I run a particular project, meetings will be almost every second day.
Let's turn it around. Let's turn it on its head. Why didn't you, as political principal, ask them the questions? What is the readiness of this? What is the state of that? How are you going to fund the NGOs? Are the licenses in place? Have the families been told? Are the NGOs identified and known? Why didn't you ask those questions?
But as Justice, at every occasion when presentations are made, it's indicated. That's why I'm saying the slide presentation on the 26th of January, it talks about the NGOs and it reflects who has a license, who doesn't have. Again, in the different presentation, you'll see what the team would have reported in the formal meetings and of what was going on in the project. And I sought to put those on record as to what would have happened. It will be impossible for me to go and assess the patients on the ground and say, this one is suitable to go to an NGO, this one is suitable to go to this and that. Those things were done by officials.
Advocate Groenewald,
Thank you, Justice.
I think you'll make more progress than me. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Justice. There's a lot of points to make, ma'am, but yeah, let's proceed on the issues that really count. But you push through. February, get warned by your own staff, by your own professional, competent people that you relied on so much. But you say, no, we push through. March, there's again litigation. You push through. Now I want to refer you to another document. It's also in volume 8, page 2769. Can you confirm what document is this, ma'am?
Two 2769, yeah?
That's correct, ma'am.
Yes.
Can you
I'm
confirm
not sure. What is it?
what document is this?
It's a document, you said 2765.
Ma'am, that is the page number, the paginated page
Okay.
number. I'm asking you what document is this? Identify
It's
the
the
document.
minutes
for me.
between of the minutes of the meeting held between the NGOs and the department.
2769, a resolution for the
Oh, sorry.
MEC meeting with senior managers on the life Esidimeni contract relationship termination. You can confirm that? The date is the 8th of April 2016. Can you confirm that? The venue
Yeah,
was
probably
your
if
office.
If I check my diary, it will be correct.
All right,
But,
so-
yeah.
You were present at this meeting?
I probably, if it was in my boardroom, probably yes.
Yes, ma'am. You were present at this meeting. So let's highlight a few points here. It's the 8th of April. Was it not for the extension, this project would have been finalized already.
Pardon?
But at that point in time, a number of patients have already been transferred out of life Esidimeni.
Can you please repeat your, just be slow?
It's the 8th of April.
Yes, yeah, I
Yes.
follow the date, yeah?
So at that point in time,
Maybe just deal with point by point and just indicate which column or row you're dealing with.
just making, before I'll get to the
Oh,
specific
okay, so you're still
issues,
making
I
up.
want to put us in the timeline. On the 8th of April, there was already a transfer of a number of patients to Takalane. There was already transfers conducted.
Okay.
But at this point in time, you were now ready for the big phase. Because we know in May, there was a huge number of mental health care users transferred. So we are at the point of the transfers being affected. You agree with me?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see on the 8th of April what happened. Point number 2, a slide to be prepared on the number of LE personnel and their categories indicating how many will be absorbed. You agree with me that you are at the point and you are at a time where Life Esidimeni's contract is to be terminated and you haven't finalized that yet?
Yes, I think this is the HR, and again, to amplify my answer, Justice, in the file, the LR132, in one of the presentations there, you'll see there's a HR file with all the categories that the one I was trying to take you through yesterday.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm just getting to the point that you are here at day 0, and all this still needs to be done. So let's get through them. 4th one, a slide should be prepared indicating how many users have IDs, how many still need IDs, and how many are in the process of application. So that still needed to be done. You can confirm.
The point is, these things were raised in a meeting chaired by you, where you were present in your boardroom. That is a point, and council wants a response to that.
But just as a specific, to be specific exactly on this issue one by one, may I?
Yes, just wait for the question that he wants confirmation on. He has just asked you a question. Is it true that those issues were discussed at your meeting?
The issues of
And yet you are so close to the big displacement of patients.
But remember, Justice, as patients move, and the HR people accordingly move or be absorbed in the department. So whatever the phases the official they were implementing, it is in accordance with what would have been discussed in the meeting. And I'd like to refer you to the numbers of workers who would have been employed in totality, absorbed from life in the one of the slide presentation.
That's not the point. The point is simple. You come here, you testify for 3 days, and you say the whole time, I didn't know about the risk. I didn't know about the risk. They didn't, I'm not a professional. Nobody told me about this. They didn't inform me of the risk. My apologies.
I think the witness said I'm not a prophet.
Oh yeah, she's not a prophet. Sorry. She's not a prophet. So that's the issue here, man. And what I'm trying to show is, and I'll show you, I'll play my hand, I'll show you my cards. And that is simple. You knew about the risk. You knew fully about the risk. And I will show you it. Because in this meeting, you still need it. It's the 8th of April. It said to you there, 295 beds for hospitals must be available by next week. It must be available. It's not yet available. It must be available.
Okay, maybe through you, Justice.
I'm going to put it, ma'am. I'll get through. I'll get through.
Can I please answer?
But allow the witness to answer on that one. In the meeting, so many beds were yet to be found.
No, the beds were not to be found, but the beds were being picked up from a respective health facilities where we had spare beds. When it says it must be found, it's because they must be collected in respective places and then be taken to the places where it has been, they were being identified.
So this discussion was held at the meeting?
Yes, I remember us discussing, yes, I remember us discussing beds and where they're going to find them and who was going to make sure that those beds are found.
Council?
Thank you, Justice. Next bullet point, 447 beds for Kalafong Hospital must be ready by end of May 2016. You knew this. You are the MEC. You sit there, you hear all of this, and you say to them, why don't you say to them, people, what are we doing? We are placing these patients' lives at risk because all of this should have been done and finalized months ago. And now on number 99, we're still struggling with it.
But Justice, if we to look at the same page, it says it's also give a responsible person as well as a timeline. So when people, and that's normally how I work, when you have a task, there's a responsibility or a matter to be resolved, you assign a time frame and you assign an individual concern. So in my understanding, when people present something to me and said, this is what we're going to, this is the issue, this is what we're doing, by this day we're going to resolve it and we'll be able to meet our timelines. And I do not know beyond that what I'm being told in the meeting, what is a council saying. Actually, I'm not following properly.
Council is saying, so late in the day, before the May big push, you should have realized that a lot is still to be done. That's the import of what's put to you. Alternatively, it is not true when you say you didn't know. There are likely to be difficulties.
But Justice, if you go according to these minutes, which I would love to see the presentation that go along with this, it would have been said, this is a presentation, this is where we are, but these issues we're identifying, we're going to be able to resolve them according to these timelines. So we're discussing these minutes in the absence of this document, this list, in the absence of what would have been presented in the meeting. And I keep saying, Justice, when I'm being given, and I don't know myself to be that irresponsible. I know myself to be saying, when there's a problem, I come to the party full steam and I make sure that things are resolved.
Yes, Mama, I'm going to ask something. I like leaving people with a thought so they don't feel harassed. I'm saying at the end of all of these questions, I'm going to be asking, why is it that you had no sense of danger? Why is it that you... Okay, let me phrase that differently. What is it that was so pressing, so compelling, that these patients must be out at the end of May? I mean, what was the real driver? Because part of the closure and the questions that are being asked by most of the witnesses, we didn't know why was it so pressing, so compelling to move ahead even when the NGOs were not ready. As history showed, ultimately, I'd like you to think about it, even as a matter of hindsight. And I'm not trying to blame you, but I still remain with a mystery why it was so pressing that it must, for better, for worse, happen. Just think about that, and let's talk about that a little later after all the detailed questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Justice. Ma'am, I'm just going to highlight some of these issues and then I'll put my question to you. So if you go on the equipment like beds, linen, clothing, and others, a plan has to be presented. Second one, a visit by management and doctors should be undertaken to view the identified NGOs. Patients are going to them, but we still need to view them. But in any event, second one, NGO profiles must be submitted and presented. Second one, NGO staff to be presented in the next meeting. Second one, NGO marathon and verification of NGOs must be done by end of April 2016. Another one, users from Life Esidimeni may be transferred to NGO and doctors will follow them at NGO to assess them and replace them to the relevant facility if there is a need. Let's get this done, people. Let's get this done. There's no backing down. Next one, 950 users must be moved by end of April 2016 to identified NGO beds. Now, these are the exact same NGOs that you still needed to verify, that you still needed the doctors to go out to in terms of these minutes. And you, ma'am, still persist with your argument that you did not know about the risks.
Okay, again, Justice, and I want to assure you, in all certainties,
Yes, ma'am.
that my assurance working with the team of medically qualified people gave me a sense of comfort that they know what we're doing. Because if you see in the team, we will have, in relating to infrastructure, it will be the team from health that instructs the Department of Infrastructure, which has engineers and all the relevant qualified personnel to do the infrastructure on behalf of the department. As you would have seen in the list of the project managers, those it will include a plethora of individuals for the responsible areas of their work so that decisions are made speedily. So with the assurance and the competent individuals, in my sense that I continue to have a confidence. Of course, in hindsight, things are different. And it's important for me to continue to emphasize that. Because if you say, going by this document, and as I said, and the shortcomings of what this document is, and that's the difficulty of me just seeing one document, as being said, is the minutes of the meeting, which I have not seen, and I've chosen not to go in that argument. I'm saying I do not see the presentations which would have been made in this meeting and the discussion thereof, and what which led to this kind of resolutions being written in this manner. But I take the point.
You take the point that you, the MEC, at that point in time, being presented with these facts, should have known that you are placing mental health care users' lives at risk.
Once again, Council, I would not have known that the decision that the department has made was going to place the most vulnerable people in our society at risk. Had I known, with the benefit of hindsight, we would have done things differently. Definitely, and I can assure you that.
Ma'am, that is why these people places their lives in your hands, is that you can predict and see what's the best for them.
I can't cancel it. It's absolutely impossible. I can't
It's
predict.
impossible.
No, but do you understand the question? Leaders are leaders because they are meant to have foresight. They're meant to be able to sense the way forward and the dangers that the way forward may present. That's what the question is. These people have chosen you to be a leader because they trust that you will
Protect them.
that is what the question is.
Kodwa ke Justice. Uma ngabe bengazi
But Justice, if I knew
ukuthi
that
isinqumo
the decision
esisithathile
that we took
ku department
in the department,
ibizoba ekutheni ekugcineni
in the
kube
end,
nalesi
would have
mphumela esikuwo
these
manje.
kind of results that we have now.
Bekungeke senze izinto ngalendlela esizenze ngayo.
I think we would have done things differently.
But
Ngoba
umholi,
ukuba-
mame,
ukuba-
umholi, kufuneka abone phambili.
But a
Kufanele
true
ukuthi
leader
abone
should
kodwa
have foresight.
kwezinye
Yes,
izikhathi
Justice.
awuboni Justice.
In some other times you don't
Khona
have
izikhathi la
foresight.
khona ubona ukuthi la
There are times where you see that
zikhona izikhathi Justice
there are
la
times,
uzobona ukuthi
Justice,
khona la ngizowa.
that you see that there are dangers here.
Kuzikhona izikhathi la uthola khona i-assurance ukuthi yonke into ihamba
There
kahle.
are
And
times where
they
you
happen
get-
in our individual lives.
There are times
So
where you
all
get
I'm saying
assurances.
Justice ukuthi had I known what I know now and probably had a better foresight and had looked at things differently, maybe we would not be definitely be sitting here. And again, this is at the benefit of hindsight. And I take that point, and I'll continue to agree with you on that point.
And that's not my point, it's Council's point. He says leaders are meant to have foresight.
To the extent possible.
Yeah. Council?
Thank you, Justice. Ma'am, I put it to you actually that you didn't need foresight. All that you need was to pay a bit of attention. Because the facts were in front of you. The signs were there. Your own professional people warned you about it. But you, Ms. Qedani Mahlangu, this...
Maybe, no, just call me Dorothy, just
Dorothy.
to be safe. That's better. Because we're going to cross purpose when you get there.
But you, Dorothy,
Absolutely.
the former MEC, you decided to push through.
But Council, I continue to say with the benefit of hindsight, would have done things differently. And if indeed I had signs, I had foresight that things are going to turn out the way they did, I would have indeed asked the team that we should do things differently.
The thing is, ma'am, you haven't produced any document or any argument that you queried your professionals.
Because I trusted them.
You trusted them. They tell you, we are at risk, do not proceed. You trust them. But you say we must proceed.
No, that's incorrect. It's, remember, I said to you, in government, decisions are not made by individuals. You can call MEC for community safety or anyone, any politician, and ask how decisions are made in any department. The decisions in government are never an individual decision, and it will be impossible to have decisions made by an individual, and it doesn't matter how senior you are.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. I will argue at the end of the day that you were a evasive witness, that you didn't want to confront the issues, that the evidence was quite clear by all your professional staff on which you relied, that you knew about the risks, and that you were not truthful
That's
during your
inaccurate.
testimony.
I would disagree with you, Councillor.
A last point, a question from my side, ma'am. Do you seek forgiveness from the families?
Yes, I do.
You do. And for what do you seek forgiveness?
For what happened under my political leadership.
Under your political leadership. But you distance yourself to some extent.
I'm not distancing myself. I'm saying the team that I worked with failed me. And to that extent, people lost life. And I'm truly, truly sorry. And I will work systematically and to make sure that I support every effort that government is doing in finding closure on this so that families can find peace at last.
And again, ma'am, I will argue that your testimony has not brought any form of closure to the families. Thank you, Justice. No further questions.
Advocate Grunewald, thank you. Advocate Witamo.
Thank you, Justice. Ms. Mahlangu, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Advocate Watam.
I am the fifth counsel to cross-examine you after 3 days of you being on the stand. It is quite clear that there's been quite a number of questions which were put to you, and you have provided the answers to the extent that you did. From what appears from our side is that my learned colleagues have, for some reasons, deprived me of asking you questions because the questions which I wanted to put to you have already been canvassed and been dealt with. And on that note, Ms. Mahlangu will pose no questions to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate.
Advocate Muchana, I know it's late in the day, but we must continue to allow the proceedings to go on, please.
Thank you, Justice Mseneka. I don't have anything else to add on that is in re-exam.
You have no re-examination.
Thank you.
That's good news for my MEC, that the end of the cross-examination. Excuse me. Again, I'd like to thank you for having come here. This is not a trivial exercise. Sometimes when I talk about the enormity of the exercise, I say one will struggle to find an equal number of people dying in one tragedy. It's larger than Sharpeville, it's larger than June 16, it's larger than Marikana. There are many people. And that is why it is such national reverberance, because people understand that it is a tragedy. So I'd like to thank you for having made time to come. We'd have wanted you to come earlier than you did, so that we could wrap it up and help closure to come quickly and go all our different ways to go and lick our wounds as we try and heal. But nonetheless, thank you for coming, and thank you for coming voluntarily and participating in the process. There will be argument after this, and there will be an award, which will be my duty to write, that would reflect the outcome of these proceedings. Proceedings are about compensation, but are also about redress and closure. In order to facilitate that, we have developed a practice in the arbitration proceedings, rather unusual, to allow any and every witness at the end of his or her testimony, and you've seen that on all the tapes that you've had a look at, the transcriptions, to have a valedictory message to the families in the first instance, and certainly to the nation, to the extent that this is, as you know, televised live. And I think it is that moment where you have the opportunity to speak, and I hand that over to you.
Thank you, Justice. It's been a difficult exercise, and I'd like to thank each and every member of the families who was represented here.
Please leave quiet. Those who are leaving, I see people rise. Do it quietly, please. Please, you may proceed.
Thank you, Justice, once again for the opportunity. I'd like to say to the families that indeed what happened, it's really regrettable. And once again, my sincere condolences to each and every one of the family members who lost their loved one. And I'm not saying this lightly, that a loss of life is very painful. I may not understand what they have gone through, but I do understand the pain of losing their loved one. And I do say, do, ngithemba ukuthi what government is doing will help the families to find closure finally. And secondly, I'd like to say to thank you, Justice, for having afforded me the opportunity to be listened to and to present my story, and to thank all the councils who were present here, particularly Advocate Ngujana, who took time and took me through the documentation, and for at every moment he was available together with the state advocate to, whenever they were called upon, to provide information that was necessary for me to be a useful witness. And the third aspect I'd like to say is that being a political leader is not an easy task. Post-democracy, probably this is one of those very difficult incidents that I don't think I'll ever forget in my life. It has not been easy. It has been exceptionally difficult and complicated by the fact that I was out of the country without my family. And at no stage did I attempt to avoid coming to the arbitration or appear. My reasons of not coming on time, those have already been explained and they're on record. And I'd like to assure you, Justice, if there's anything that I still need to do in supporting your work in whatever way, I remain available. Whether telephonic or email or whatever, I remain available because I realize that I'm an important link to what would have happened in the department. I tried my utmost best to remember, to access document. I may not have accessed all the document necessary. And the fourth point I'd like to say and emphasize, and I've raised it a couple of times in the arbitration process, that I feel that we have let down the most vulnerable in our society. And for that, I apologize. Myself and the team that I led. And I hope the colleagues, every politician going forward will look at to do things differently. With the benefit of hindsight, of course, we can always do things differently. And many a times I was asked what is my view about the arbitration report, or excuse me, about the Ombuds report. I'll continue to read the report in the next couple of days and allow you, Justice, to conclude your processes. If necessary for me to make further any inquiry, whether through you or through government or through any other legal processes, I'll certainly do so. Because, and reason being, Justice, is that, and I'd like to explain that some of the questions that I picked up during this interaction suggested that this process was about my testing, checking my integrity. I know you tried your best to allay my fears, but I feel that as I walk out of here, this exercise, to some extent, was about testing my integrity, whether indeed I have the integrity to have been a political head in the respective department that I led. And to that extent, I will consider what my options are in relating to the report of the ombudsperson. And once again, I'd like to humbly thank you very much. If I cross lines of one kind or the other, I apologize because it's my first time to appear in such formalities. I wish you all the best for the remainder part of the hearings, and I'm looking forward to the conclusion of this matter so that even me and myself and my family can find closure. Just to share a bit of an anecdote. I had a sore heart on Saturday. I went to Mpumalanga to visit my family where I come from in Hendrin, in a township called Egwazamuguhle. When I got there, of course, they have not seen me for months, and my aunt said to me, "We're happy to see you alive." Of course, I think she's 80 or 82. And when I was away, I heard that she was hospitalized, so that's the reason why I made sure that I see her before the hearings. And she said to me, she told me a story which really broke my heart, and I hope that South Africans, whatever the interpretation related to my role as it's been presented by the media, they will try and understand my perspective as I've come here to present. My aunt said to me, I went to the clinic as a diabetic patient, as a person who take high blood medication from the clinic. As she said, being checked or consulting a nurse concern, and someone said 2 nurses were talking about me. And the 2 nurses were saying to the nurse who was attending to my aunt, said to her, by the way, that's Qedani's relative. And the nurse who was treating my aunt said to her, oh, your child killed people. And an argument ensued from an 80-something-year-old and a nurse at the clinic. And my aunt said to her, it's okay if you want to kill me. If that satisfies you, please do kill me. What am I saying, Justice? My family has taken strain because of my voluntary role that I've taken in government in trying, and I tried my best to do my work. Yes, things may have gone wrong under my watch, and I accept that. That is why I thought my decision to step aside and allow government to do its work and rebuild, particularly the mental health services, I thought it was an honorable thing. And I do want to say to South Africans once again, and apologize, and I hope this doesn't happen again, but my family should not suffer on the basis of the things that happen in the conduct, in the work that I was doing politically as a deployed cadre. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much. And excuse me. I think as we close, I have already expressed my view. I think it's a noble thing to fall on one sword and to accept political responsibility. And I hope a few more, even more senior leaders would learn from you. So I have admiration for that. I want you to know that.
Thank you, Justice.
But as for the balance of this, we'll have to go back and think, apply our minds, and do the right thing. And I think we are partners with government in this arbitration to try and find closure and to acknowledging this is a tragedy. It is a total post-apartheid tragedy. We've come to the end of today, and thank you for everybody who has shown so much patience. Particularly the council, I could see irritations flying around with cross-examinations, but it comes to the territory. It comes to the territory, but I'd like to thank all of you. It's a lot of hard work in difficult circumstances. I've had a good few offers of people saying, I need debriefing. Psychologists and psychiatrists think I'm a victim myself. So I hope you're not as much victims as I am of all this pain and trauma around us. We're meeting tomorrow at 9:30. And what's the program for tomorrow?
Justice Mseneke, we have...
We're doing a bit of housekeeping, but you are welcome to start packing your documents. And again, siyabonga mama, siyathokoza.
Thank you, Justice.
Okay.
We have Professor Grobler tomorrow. That's the only witness available for tomorrow from the schedule of witnesses. But prior to that, I had received a document, that is the report back from the SAPS. I wanted to introduce it during lunchtime, but I did not want to waste, no, after lunchtime, I did not want to waste more time. We shall deal with it tomorrow morning before Professor Grobler starts. It's a short report.
Very good. I think let's do that then. I do accept that. I think we've done well. Sorry. Let's meet tomorrow then at 9:30. We are adjourned.